delicious, tasty beverage. Okay, who's here first? Remy Gilnius. 1,000 Pine Points to you. You're doing well. Satan was talking about you the other day and giving you high praise. Josone, second place. Sorry, not first, sorry. 500 Pine Points to you. And that's you again, that's Bacon Sarny Geddon. Sup with you, dude. Glad you could make it here, man. Bacon Sarny Geddon. That's a great name, Bacon. I wonder if you're Canadian? You'd be Canadian Bacon. 250 Pine Points to you. I thought I would go over my impressions, my thoughts of going in Hamza's den, which they call the arena, which is a Muslim group where they either talk about what Muslims believe or what you believe, and then they have a back and forth. And I was going to review it today, but then I'm surfing on YouTube, and I see a live stream going on, and wouldn't you know, Digital Gnosis beat me to it. So anyhow, I'll bring Digital Gnosis in, and we won't play the whole video, or probably won't play any of it, but we'll just talk about it. That way we can keep it out of context and then say whatever we want, and nobody will know the difference. Hi, Nathan.
Hey, how's it going? Is my connection okay, by the way? Because I'm tethered on my phone Wi-Fi, and I don't know if that's...
You're a little fuzzy, but even when the resolution is good, you're fuzzy.
Is the audio okay, though? That's the most important part.
Oh, yeah, the audio is great.
Okay.
Where's V today?
So at the moment, because we might be moving next year, we've decided to spend a couple of weeks apart while we think about whether that's what we want to do going forward. But we've not split up or anything, so it's not like an awkward thing. It's like because through lockdown we've been like together and working from home together all the time. It's like really difficult for us to be like making an objective decision about that. And we don't have any religion pressuring us to get married or anything, so we can think about this the best way possible.
Yeah, I loved. I only listened to 1 minute of what you did this morning, and or what time is it there?
It's 7:06 here now.
PM. Yeah. Okay. So I love what you did this evening, and I loved your British accent that you were impersonating Hamza, and it just comes naturally to you, that British accent.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at accents in general. I don't know, like I always think, is someone going to take offense though if I like do that? Like I did the Andrew Loke one, and everyone said I was racist when I did it. So
yeah, it's crazy if you do an accent of someone who has a darker shade of skin, it's racist, and if it's a lighter shade of skin, then it isn't.
Exactly.
But is Hamza from a different part? His accent sounds a little bit different than yours.
Yeah, I think he's either, I don't know. He said when I went on Hamza's den that he'd been in Hyde, which is where me and V's flat is. So I don't know if he grew up there or if he's from north of Manchester, or maybe Bolton, maybe Bradford. I'm not exactly sure, but it sounds like those sorts of areas. Okay.
Is that further north?
Just a bit further north of Manchester, or potentially a little bit further south, like in the Midlands around Birmingham as well. It could sound. So I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
There's also like a lot of Muslim communities in those areas as well, which is, so I'm making like, a judgment based off of that, because I'm not a particularist like Danny. I use base rates to.
What percentage of UK is Muslim, do you think? I could look it up.
Yeah, I don't know the exact percent. I mean, it has been growing because they're out reproducing everyone else, and also a lot of people have been coming over due to like war and stuff like that over the past like 20 years. But I don't know an exact percent. It's definitely higher in those areas I mentioned, though, like Bradford and Birmingham and stuff. And that's why, if you're familiar with Tommy Robinson and people like that, it's become a big issue for a lot of those working class communities, because people like Tommy Robinson have kind of capitalized on the narrative that, like, there's these people with darker skin than you on your front door, so you should be scared of them. And, there's tension and stuff with different cultures clashing and things in some of those communities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's my thoughts, and you feel free to ask me questions. I was just minding my own business at home like I usually do. I never leave the house, very rarely. I just sit, when I'm not on live stream, I'm just sitting at my door with a gun, waiting for someone to come in. Well, I don't know why I said that. That was probably pretty bad. No, I got a dog, so she takes care of it. But there's been a few people on Twitter, and I don't know who they are, who've been many times saying, Doug, go in this show. Yeah. And I haven't ever gone in a Muslim show before, I don't think. And so I decided, hey, I got a couple of spare hours, so I'll try it. But then I was in the queue. I couldn't even get in. And so I had to use my street cred to get in. And that's the only reason why I got in. So basically, I let people know in the live stream chat I was there. And then sure enough, probably half a dozen people knew who I was. And I think one person on the panel, maybe two, knew who I was. And then I was tagging them. And then finally, Hamza, I guess he didn't know who I was, which was like that throughout that whole live stream, that hurt me the most.
I think it was good though, because if someone had known your satanic tricks, then they might not have been. I think they still would have been effective, but they might not have been as effective as they were. But yeah, it took me about 3 hours to get in when I went on it as well. I was like waiting in that backstage, like getting so bored. But then like it was like a sunk cost fallacy, you know, like when you've been waiting so long, you've got to.
Well, I made it clear in the live stream chat before I went on, hey, I'm only going to wait for about half an hour. Right. So, you know, if you want me, here I am. By the way, this is the line I use on all my girlfriends in high school. I'm only going to wait half an hour. And it works well. And so, yeah, I go on and I got the transcript here. I'm not going to play it, but I know you kind of ribbed on me a little bit that one of the first things I said was how bad their Christian was that came on just prior to me.
I think it's the only way to build rapport with them, because I don't know how toxic it was before you went in, but like when I was watching for like those 4 hours, it was like so abusive like every single time. And I was like, the only way I can get them to not be that way with me, if I'm like, oh my God, Hamza, you're so smart. Like that guy, he was an idiot. He didn't have any epistemology and he thinks he can justify atheism without knowing epistemology. Like you guys did great. And then they were like, oh no, like if we start shitting on this Digital Gnosis guy, I don't know if you deliberately made that decision, but.
No, I did.
Okay.
I did. I deliberately made that decision. And even if the gentleman from Hamza's Den are listening right now, I'm not scared to say I did that on purpose to build rapport. And so I can yell it from the rooftops. I'm saying what I'm saying to build rapport, and it's still going to work. I mean, it's still a good thing. Building rapport, even if it's just whatever, it's never a bad thing.
Yeah, that was so. Someone said, I tried going on a first time, and I tried just asking the poof or drown, and I got kicked that time. So then the next time I had to wait 3 hours and came in, and then
someone asked you asked the poof or drown or someone else.
Yeah, when Muhammad Hijab was there, I came in once and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm just under the power of Satan, but I want to ask the poof or drown." And then they were just like, "Under the power of Satan, get out of here, you idiot!" And like that didn't work the first time I got in there.
Because I asked the poof and drown in that live stream, and I'm wondering if they.
But you'd built the rapport by that point. I think where it's because that first time I came in, I didn't take that route, so that they could just do that thing where it's like, oh, another atheist being immoral. Like,
yeah. What's interesting is I can tell these guys are fairly intelligent. I'm looking at them on the screen. You guys can't see them, but my guess is maybe all of them have university degrees, except for maybe Hamza. If I were to guess, I honestly don't know, but if I were to place bets, I bet you Hamza doesn't have a university degree. But I can tell that I know.
Yeah, Imran's a doctor. Okay. Imran's like a medical doctor, I think. Okay. Who's the guy? I forgot. I've got his name. Was it Asadullah? He had like the masters in philosophy,
right?
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know the other ones really.
But here's an observation: when intelligent theists interact and talk to someone they don't know, but then they pretty quickly surmise that they're talking to someone who's also educated and intelligent, you notice what happened? They did not go into specific theism.
Right.
They basically went high level philosophy type questions.
Yeah.
And
oh, sorry, you go.
Yeah, it reminds me, they were very precept-ish to me, except nice precept. And they were also very Calvinistic, I think, in a way. Don't question God. Just God is in control of everything. He's sovereign. And yeah, this is the best explanation for how the universe is. You know, your starting point is God. Everything else is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think at the start, before their defenses came up a bit more, when you were asking them like the main reason as well, like what the thing Hamza said to you was because it can like unite the soul and the body and make sense of the world for men and stuff. And I was thinking, you know, this just sounds like, you know, I was desperate, life didn't make sense, and then this thing came along and said, here's a worldview, and took care of it for me. And then when you were more critical, that's when, you know, the potentiality of evolution cannot make sense of a rational from a non-rational, whatever. Like,
yeah. Well, the thing is, before I went in, I have watched a couple of videos of Hamza on, what do you call it, the street corner in Britain?
Oh yeah. Speaker's Corner.
Speaker's Corner, yeah, the street corner. And I don't know if I made a video on this or not, but maybe I have it in my on my hard drive somewhere. But basically, someone asked him, "Why are you a Christian?" And he said, "I don't want to burn. I don't want to go to hell." Muslim. Yeah. I talked to too many Christians. And so going in, I knew that is the real reason he's a Muslim, because it's fire insurance, just like many Christians believe. And so when I think that was one of the first things I asked was, why do you guys believe in Islam? And none of them said hell at the beginning, but later on in the conversation, it came up. In fact, it was Hamza who said it first. Later on in the conversation, I asked, well, why should I even care about Islam? And Hamza was the first one to say, because of the afterlife, because you don't want to go to hell.
I made a 10-minute video comparing when I went on to what Christian apologists say. And this was one of the funniest things that I found as well, because I forgot, I think it was Abdullah, a guy who wasn't on when you were there, that was on when I was. And he quoted the Quran saying, you know, when the angels are dragging the people into hell, you know what they say to them? Did you not use your intellect? Did you not, did you not reason? And I put that right next to Hamza saying, Christian's telling me this, Christian telling me that. You're going to go to hell. Why should I think any of it's true? Because they just don't see the double standard. It's the same with all of it. It's like, it's good enough for them when it's there. It's like special pleading. It's good enough when it's my one that I've decided is true, but they would never accept it from anyone else. Christian giving them Pascal's wager or whatever.
Some of the criticism I've gotten from this from Christians is that I was too easy on them.
I think if you'd gone harder, you would have just been kicked. Like, you wouldn't have got as far as you got, or not kicked, but they would have escalated and then like rationalized. Here's why we kicked him. Look how heated that got.
Yeah. So for people who made those criticisms, you have to remember that I'm in their house. And so when people come on my house, like, I can beat Nathan up right now all I want, and then he can leave if he wants. But when you're in someone's house and you're looking them face to face, then insult them, especially if they have a dog and a gun next close to them. You're not going to do it, right? So in the same way, when you go on someone else's live stream, you got to be way more careful. Now, if your goal is to be unproductive and just cause a crap show, then go on and push back on every single point. Like, there's a lot of things they said that I'm sure you noticed I didn't push back on. I just let them say it.
And you'd go, that's a great point, but here's what I think.
Yeah. And then some other criticisms. So those were the criticisms I got from Christians. They wanted me to go into the flying man. They wanted me to really show those Muslims how stupid they are. I think I'm not projecting, but I'm guessing this is what they're thinking. But I also got some criticisms there were criticisms against the people in Hamza's den. There was a lot of Muslims I noticed in that live stream chat later that thought that they didn't handle me well because they didn't delve into the Quran. They didn't ask questions like, PineCreek, have you read the Quran from cover to cover? And the people who make these critiques against Hamza's dens, the cast there, the cast and crew, don't realize that. I think they realized that would have no impact on a guy like me. And they were smart enough to realize that. Maybe they weren't, and it just never really, the conversation didn't go in that direction. But I would have used the flying man analogy if they said, well, the reason why I believe the Quran is the perfect word of Allah is because of how it was beautifully written. And then I would just, I got a book about my ancestor that was beautifully written. And so, yeah, I would have gone down that route.
I think you've got to learn the Islamic minimal facts though first, because the problem is you don't know if they've got like a, I don't know, maybe you do know what, like if they got an early creed or what would the equivalent be? Yeah,
the Muslim early creed is there is no God, there's only one God. No, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. And then there's another part of the creed where the Quran is the final revelation. And so this is written in a text, this creed. And so I appeal to Jews and Christians listening. The fact that creed is written down, does that make it any more likely that it's true? Of course not. Just like what Paul said, reciting that creed doesn't make it more likely that it's true. One question out of the gate, well, I think I asked them, why do you believe Islam's true? Then I asked them, would you rather have me an atheist or a Christian?
Yeah.
And they refused. Well, did Hamza actually answer?
You're both mad. He said, you're both mad. I think you're both mad, mate, was what he said. And then he said he thought he'd prefer Christian because then at least you'd be sort of open to God, angels, supernatural miracles and stuff like that. Well, which I don't know why that's better than just being a good person or something like that. But
well, the thing is, you can be an atheist and still open to those things. You just need a demonstration of those things, some evidence of those things. Actually, a lot of evidence of those things, because those are pretty big claims. What was I going to say?
I mean, feel free to play it, even though it was a really good thing. So I'd be happy to watch some of it again if you want to.
No, that's fine. I already made a video on it, and so people can watch themselves. But I think people are more interested in what was going through my mind when it was happening. But yeah, when I asked them, would you rather have me an atheist or a Christian? Then I asked them, don't you view Christians as idolaters? And I would think Muslims would want me to not worship a false god. Now, I don't worship any gods. Isn't worshiping no gods better than worshiping a false god from their point of view? I've asked this question of Jews as well, and I think some Jews would call Christians idolaters and breaking the first commandment.
Yeah, I don't know the Muslim, because I know like that, they bring out like the golden calf or whatever in Judaism, but Muslims hold that some of the Old Testament is sort of corrupted, and I don't know what parts, so I never know which of the stories I can really use against them. Yeah,
that's not clear to me either. This is a common refrain that you'll hear from guys like David Wood, is that the Bible says the Quran is false, but the Quran affirms the Bible, so therefore, Christianity is true. But I don't think a lot of Christians realize that Muslims don't view much of the canon as God's perfect word. Some of it, but not all of it, and probably most of the New Testament not. So they just will laugh at you. And I don't think Christians even realize this. I remember Christians using that line with me when I use Islam as an outsider test for faith. And then I'll just ask them, well, what do Muslims say to this? And they don't know. Oh, that reminds me of one of my favorite points in the conversation is when, what's his name? I got it here. Imran?
Yes, he's the doctor with the books.
Okay, so he's a medical doctor?
Yeah, medical doctor, I think, if I'm remembering right. And then there's another guy called Sabor who sometimes goes on, who's doing like a PhD in some biology related field. So they like talk about, evolution and everything.
So at one point, I think it was 12 minutes in, he asked me, "Why did you leave Christianity?" And I said to him, "Because I started to think like a Muslim." And he had a big smile on his face. I don't know if you noticed that. But then that smile quickly went away when I said, I started to think like a Muslim, like a Jew, like a Mormon, like an atheist. And my heart was smiling when I saw that. I was focusing on his face. But
I remember, there's things you say, I think, because they're obviously convinced that their worldview is true. So they think like people are on a path to becoming Muslims. So they get used to atheists, like this stereotype that they have about what atheists are like, where they just don't think in this particular way. So if you grant them anything, like, oh, I began to start to think like a Muslim, they're like, well, providence might be working in your life. You're starting to come over to Islam. Like God's given me this conversation, and so I think they think like that a lot. And so he was that. I think that's what was going through his mind. Like, yes, like this is going to be a convert in a few more conversations time. And then
yeah, what's interesting about this conversation I had was not once in my brain did I say to myself, I need to interrupt them. Like I just let them. Well, I don't have any power there, but I guess I could have tried to interrupt them, and maybe I did subconsciously. But I think it's more productive to just, as painful as it is, even if you're a Christian or any atheist talking to a Muslim, as painful as it is, you just gotta let them talk. If your goal is to have a productive conversation, if your goal is to have just purely for other people watching and entertainment, then you can start a fight. But that idea, but that idea of it never came into my mind at all to be combative or aggressive with them. And what's interesting, I saw some live stream comments later that it's refreshing to have a smart atheist for once, or intelligent atheist for once.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I would say many atheists, it's a spectrum, of course, but many atheists are very intelligent, but they just lack one thing, and that is patience.
Right.
And just, you got to wait and wait and wait. And when you think you're done waiting, you got to wait a little more. And then when you think that's over, just one more wait. And then you ask a really nice, thoughtful question. And that is way more powerful than saying you're wrong. So
yeah. Well, what's 10 minutes of suffering in a million years' time anyway?
Oh yeah, that was interesting. There's so many, I think, bad connotations to what they said there. So for those of you who don't know, I'd asked them the poof or drown question, and I got away with it, even though Nathan just told me that he asked them too. And their point was that it's still okay for Allah to drown people, toddlers and babies, pregnant women, because it's just a little bit of pain, and a million years from now, you're not even going to remember it. And I granted that to them. I just said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But he still could have poofed them.
Yeah. None of them. Did you see? So one person, I think it was Oak River, said the one thing basically that you could have done better was said, "Can you ask me that question?" and just gone poof.
Yeah. And then the connotations for that is, things like sin. I think in Islam, Allah takes sin seriously, but He will forgive quickly. But still, an unforgiven sin is taken seriously according to Allah, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but in a million years, is that sin? Who cares? Allah, you don't have to ask for forgiveness for that sin a million years later. Allah's forgotten about it. It's water under the bridge. I don't think for 1 second a Muslim would say that, but with pain they will.
Well, what I wanted to see what you thought about the reaction you got to your video, because it seems like there's a lot of Muslims commenting on it, way more than I usually see on your videos, at least.
It's actually, in a way, it's I don't know how to say this. It's a little troublesome to me, because I want to be very clear to Muslims listening right now. The chances of me converting to Islam is as close as an asymptote to zero as you can imagine. However, I could convert to Islam if I take a napkin, soak it in water, and you pray in the name of Allah to light it up. But until that day, no, your texts mean nothing to me. I don't respect them. I don't care about them. So as long as you know that, fine. And so but the reason why I say it's troublesome now is because I've been getting a lot of requests to go on a lot of Muslim shows.
Yeah.
And have conversations. And there's Muslims out there who think they can do better than what these guys in Hamza Den did. And they still, I think they respect me and they think that I'm a great guy and so forth. And they think that they can do better. Maybe, but I doubt it. Is my answer to you.
It could give you like a bit of a break from Christianity if you're getting like bored and you want 6 months on Islam and then you can go back to.
Yeah, the thing is though, because I don't have the knowledge background.
Yeah.
And so it'd be harder for me if they wanted again. But I could probably do it without knowing anything about Islam. And this probably will bother Muslims listening here, is you really don't have to know anything about Islam or Christianity to ask good questions, to have someone severely doubt it. And you just use the outsider test for faith over and over again. Yeah, go ahead. There were some other thoughts I had here.
I'm trying to think that it seemed to me like the guy who had been an Orthodox Christian, firstly, he kept like quoting Jordan Peterson type things, but it seemed to me like your outsider test of faith stuff was really troubling him to begin with, because he'd been Christian in the first place, obviously doubted it and converted to Islam, and now he was thinking, have I just done the same thing again? That's what I was seeing. That's what I was reading.
You're talking about Asadullah?
Yeah, I think that's
the philosophy guy.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. I could tell that when I talked and gave an explanation or gave an answer to his question, I could tell that he, number one, understood me, and number two, resonated with it, and understood that if you say that God is just necessary, well, so could be the universe. And so he can really, I think the only thing he could say back to that was, well, Islam just makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Which is
that's where the Jordan Peterson stuff came out. Like, that's where he was like, well, you don't act as if it's that way. It's too damn bloody well deep. So, and it's like,
yeah. And when he said that, I think I went to the animals, right? I talked about this. I think I talked about the silverback.
And the invisible, yeah.
And how, do gorillas and chimpanzees, bonobos, macaws, do they act like there's a God? Because they show empathy, they show compassion, they can also murder, kill their own kind. And that's what we do. And so is there a God for them as well? If no, then maybe there's no God for us. I
understand it, but I just can't conceive of how that would work.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll see this with Christians as well. I cannot imagine how we could have the genetic code we have, therefore God. Scientists are not even close to explaining abiogenesis, therefore God. I think they realize that they are saying basically what I'm saying. And sometimes I can resonate with it, but other times I just think, well, okay, if God did do it, how?
Yeah, exactly. Like, they don't feel under any obligation. Like, well, what causal powers did he use? How did he do it? It's like, you might as well just say, the Pixies did it, or Russell's Teapot did it. And Hamza actually said this to you, didn't he? You asked, I think you said, like, how does God do it? But I think this was about maybe morality or something else. And he said, well, that's just what he does. And it's like, you can just give that answer for anything. That's just what Russell's Teapot does. It just causes morality. It just causes abiogenesis.
Since I knew the conversation was going more on the philosophical route, and I really don't like philosophy, I don't know if it was me or them. I think it was me. I directed the conversation towards the problem of evil, because that's the biggest problem there is. And notice that really they had no answer for why Allah would create anything. In fact, I think they implied you shouldn't even ask that question.
I'm trying to think. It was the guy in the top right because he had some weird behavior when he was like when he couldn't answer the poof or drown. He was like talking about how like Mukshi was like messaging him, and he's like, "Oh, Mukshi, I can see your message. Go on, other guy, deal with the question, something." But yeah, how did he answer that one? Oh, I can't remember. It was something like, I think it was like a special pleading type thing, but I can't remember. I don't think it like made any sense or answered what you said. I just can't remember what it was. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and when I talked about foreknowledge, like omniscience being a real problem for them, that if Allah knows that I'm going to go to hell when I die, or even before I'm born, He knows this. That's what's going to happen, and they really didn't have a good answer to that free will versus omniscience type problem. But well, their answer is similar to the Christians. They say, well, God knew what you would choose, but then God's foreknowledge is dependent on mere mortals. And I think I even said exactly that. And that I know, at least for Christians, that bothers them. So if you're an atheist and you're talking about this free will, libertarian free will, the real free will, not coercion, get coercion out of your head. We're talking about the ability to have done otherwise. This is where you go with them. You basically say, if God's foreknowledge is dependent on humans, then, He's a weak God. He has to wait for you to make a choice. And that choice doesn't even exist yet. It's just a mess.
Yeah. I didn't know if they believed in libertarian free will or not, but if they did, then, and they're committed to you being like the uncaused first cause of any action that you make, then I don't see how that could be any other thing than you're the uncaused first cause of your actions. So you're dictating what God foreknows, if that's the way that it works. I don't know if they're committed to that though, or some other idea of free will.
One broad observation was, I think all but maybe one person showed their face. So for the, what's the name of that channel?
Logical, probable, plausible.
Yeah, and like praise that I am.
Yeah, all those guys.
Guys, like, wake up. You need to show your faces. You need to show your zits. You need to show your messy hair. And because you can actually get a sense of where someone's coming from, even if they're not talking and they're just looking, like that expression in Imran's face when I said, the reason why I left Christianity is because I started to think like a Muslim. He smiled. If he had an avatar, I would never have seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Shabir Yusuf. Some people, and I remember in the live stream chat, some people were saying, Shabir, you go at him, or something like this.
Yeah, because I've got like the heroes. It's like, bring out the Pokemon. Like,
it's like let's bring in the pinch hitter. And so Shabir finally gets to talk, and if memory serves, the first thing he asked me is basically explain your worldview, which is such a difficult question to answer. And so the first thing that popped in my head was induction, and the black duck. It seems like everything in history that we've explained has been naturalistic leaning, and so therefore the big questions in life might be the same way. There is no God. The universe has just always existed, and there is no ultimate hope, meaning, and purpose. And when you die, you're dead.
But this is again the double standard. So you have to give an account of the laws of logic, of how abiogenesis works, solve the hard problem of consciousness, this and that. And you have to go down to every like causal detail, every, like what every electron's doing. And then for him, he doesn't make any attempt to say how God does any of those things for him. He's like, well, I've got God, so I've just got all my presuppositions. But how does that work? Like, why is that a better explanation than just saying, I don't know? Like,
yeah, I think I remember pointing that out in a more gentle way. And I think I asked, well, how do you explain God's nature? Like, why is God's nature what it is? And I remember Asadullah, I think I remember him actually nodding his head and saying, and resonating with that. He's like, no, you can't answer that question. It just is what it is. It's a brute fact. And so if the Muslim is allowed brute facts about Allah's nature, why can't the atheist or the naturalist say the same thing on some of these big questions?
he was like at the end, he was like, oh, it's just not satisfactory to have a brute fact or whatever. But the thing is that what you're saying there is one brute necessity. And what are all of Allah's decisions to create this way rather than that? Well, they're choices of his free will. They're brute contingencies. So there's like hundreds of thousands of these like seemingly arbitrary choices that Allah's made that are just brute contingencies. There's no like, there's no further reality determining he had to make a decision that way. He just chose of his free will that humans would have hair on their head and not be bald, or
Yeah. I there was another moment where I think I resonated with them when I was explaining my worldview and basically saying under naturalism or under atheism, I think we would expect for people's answers to these big questions to revolve around their geography and culture, their view of God, and that's what we see. And again, I don't remember them actually pushing back against that. It seemed like the Muslim was saying, "Yeah, that makes sense, but Allah, He's real. I know in my soul."
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I know in my soul. Do you remember the point where I asked? Or I was castigating Christians. This is sort of devious on my part, but I was pitting Christianity versus Islam. And I was saying how so many Christians, this was at the beginning, so many Christians, they say they believe because of the martyrs or the prophecies, but really they've had a personal experience.
Yeah.
And you remember Hamza, one of the first things he said is, well, so have I. Yeah. He didn't say it that way, but basically he admitted, well, so have I. And so don't knock the Christians for that because I've had these personal experiences, which I found very interesting.
Someone put in the chat that in response to the why did Allah create it all, the answer he gave was Allah doesn't need to create, he chose to create. But it's still, if you've got this perfect being that is completely self-sufficient, doesn't lack anything, nothing's causing him to have these desires, so he freely chooses to create and produces an imperfect world. That just makes no sense.
Yeah, I think smart theists, smart Muslims, smart Christians know that there's no good answer to that question. And it's not about need. It's just about doing. Why did Allah create? Why did Yahweh create? There's no good answer for that if you believe in an omni-God.
Yeah.
Especially if you believe in a God that has set up a system where there's an eternal afterlife that's negative. Like every single person in the Muslim hell and every single person in the Christian hell would not be there if Allah or Yahweh didn't create. It's on him. People are not chosen to exist. I mean, they don't have the free will to exist. They don't bring themselves into this world, individuals. But in the Christian and Muslim worldview, Allah does this. Yahweh does this. Knowing. Now, if you believe that Allah is omniscient or Yahweh, he knows this would happen. But heaven, Doug, but paradise, Doug, it makes up for it all.
In a million years.
In a million
but I'm never
years.
at a million years.
Yeah.
That was just so bad. Like he could. The other thing was when he said, we're just like ants to God or whatever as well. And he's like, where's your objective morality? How would you justify treating people well and stuff? And it's like, I mean, the only answer he can give is out of fear to Allah. It's not because people have inherent worth or anything, because people are just ants. We're worthless without God. So that's one thing as well. Oh, sneakers.
Yeah. Someone's asked if I'm going to take callers. I'll probably take some callers, but let's see. How am I going to do this? I want you to stay on.
I don't mind.
No,
I can stay on. I can drop out. I need to put my phone on the charger though, because it's getting really hot doing the Wi-Fi and using all the battery.
Because Bay Yaqeen is a former Muslim, so maybe I'll have him. So Bay, go to that link on the top, and I'll get you in here. So you're still here, Nathan, but nobody can see you. We'll see if this works.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Bay, good to see you.
How you doing?
Doing well. Let me.
I just wanted to comment on the stream that you did with Hamza.
Yes.
Amazing. I was so glad I clicked on it because I was just scrolling through and I saw Hamza's den. I usually don't go there because I've went there a few times and I got shouted down. I don't have that much patience that you had, so it didn't turn out that well as your conversation did. But it was a very amazing conversation. I really appreciated it, and I really appreciated your patience. And even I was surprised on their part also. They were quite patient with you as opposed to a lot of other people that come in. And I was just
Well, the thing
listening.
is, it's very easy. Human beings are like mirrors, and they tend to reflect what they're looking at. And so, if you model the behavior you desire, it's contagious and it will happen. And so, if I would have acted like a jerk, they would have been a jerk to me. But there's some people who, no matter how nice you are, they're going to act like jerks.
I think it's also because in the beginning, especially with Hamza, I noticed like he's throwing out all these like claims, like Muhammad is the best and he was the best this and the best, but you didn't counter that and because of that he got knocked out, because usually that's the point where he gives out all these claims, and then when somebody contradicts it and says
Yeah.
no, as a matter of fact, this is his history, this is all he did, then it becomes a contentious issue. But I noticed that he's the best politician, he's the best businessman, he's the best father. And I'm like, what? Really? And all you did was like,
See, this is why I have an advantage of you, because I don't know Islam well, but I know enough. I know enough to know that what some of the things you would say.
Yeah.
But you have to restrain yourself and just don't push back on it, just because there's bigger fish to fry, really. And the bigger fish to fry is, why do you believe there's an Allah existing at all? Why do you believe that if there is a God, that he had the desire to write a book about himself? These are the bigger fish. And so you don't need to go into the weeds and the minutia of it.
I think that to me, what it seemed like is a lot of times with Hamza Den and the apologetics over there, they have a set script that they follow. They're like, okay, what is your worldview? They'll ask you that. And the minute you say something about your worldview, well, you have no basis of your worldview because you're an atheist and blah, blah, blah. So you have no objective morality or objective thing to say that. That's like their thing. Or if you say something about, what is the benefit of a religion? Well, Islam gives the most benefit of everything. And, they're set script. That's why, did you notice the minute the doctor, Imran, he came in and he said, did anybody ask him about his worldview yet? Did anybody? Because he knows that's a set pattern that you'll have to ask you what your worldview is. And the minute you say you're an atheist, you don't have any objective morality. So I've with past conversation, I noticed.
Just hang on a second, one Bay. Hey, Nathan, when you're not talking, can you mute yourself? But feel free to ask questions of Bay as well if you want. Thanks. Okay,
well,
ahead,
I'm listening 10
but
seconds.
Your
behind
example of the silverback gorilla, oh my God, that was classic, and it was just like it threw Asadullah back for a second. I noticed that the minute you said they just made the silverback gorilla invisible, and I could visually see him. He's like, yeah, that it's just like, it just makes a little bit sense. And what I noticed was they just couldn't box you into a corner, because they were like trying this, trying that, and it was just not working. Because a lot of time they would ask you a question and they expect you to go into an explanation, and you're like, yes, no. And it was like, okay, you agreed with it? Yes. I was like, okay, how, it was very informative and a very educational to see how to have these type of. I'm not really very well versed at SE. I'm trying to learn, and I try to do that. But that was a really good example of SE, I would say.
Oh, thanks. Is there anything I could have done better?
I mean, no. I mean, you did quite well. The question is that, like you said, and even in the chats, I saw sometimes that you have to walk on eggshells sometimes. And that is the most difficult part, because you don't know what you're going to say that's going to tick the other person off. And then the conversation is going to divulge into like yelling back and forth. So that is the only thing that, I mean, for your part, you did pretty much everything correctly. And even their response was good, but their response was just blatant claims well, this is how it is, and this is how it is, and this is how it is. And you didn't know the background from Islamic to even say anything about it, which is maybe turned out to be a good thing, because that really threw them off, because they usually are ready to fight on that part. Like, no, we know Islam so well that we can counter any objection you have. But when they said those things to you, you just said, okay, okay. And they really didn't have anything else to say for that,
Yeah.
But the outsider test of faith was amazing. It's like, how did you know that, Christianity was false? It's like, I thought of it like a Muslim. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, like a Buddhist, like a Hindu. It's like, oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
Mm.
But yeah,
But
I think if you're an ex-Muslim, the goal is to resist basically disagreeing with the minutia, which is very difficult.
Yeah, because when you hear a claim that's false, like he's the perfect father, married 11 times, had divorced, like so many things in his history are like the way he was saying he's the perfect businessman. No, he wasn't. He was employee of his wife. I mean, he never had a business. He was like, all those things that he kept saying. There's so many counter examples to that. But the way he was like, no, he's the perfect human model for all human beings forever. He owned slaves. I mean, there's so many things you can talk about him, which like, disqualify him as being the perfect human being. But according to Hamza, he's the perfect role model for all human beings. Like,
I'm going to invite, I know there's some Muslims in the live stream chat. I'll invite any Muslim to come in right now, and we can talk about what we agree or disagree on. There's a guy named Alex who wants to come in. Bae, you can hang around even if you don't see yourself on the screen.
Sure. I'll mute myself.
Okay.
I have a question, Bae, if you don't mind as well, because one of the things that Hamza said that I don't know about, because I don't know that much about Islam, he said Muhammad was the most successful person, and you model yourself after the most successful person. But like success means a lot of different things. Like it might mean being happy, or it might mean like being a great programmer, or doing this. In what ways does Hamza mean successful? Like, does that mean that Hamza wants people to create a big religion that follows him, or he wants like what ways was Muhammad successful?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it success-wise, I wouldn't call it success. I would say most influential, because he had an influence on the most amount of people. I mean, from the religion Islam beginning and then spreading all over the world and all that. So based on that, you can say, yes, he had an influence on the largest amount of people in the world right now, 1.6 billion people and all that. But success, I think in terms of how Hamza was like, if you look at his, family life, according to Muslims, he's the perfect role model. All Muslims are allowed to marry 4, except for him, he's allowed to marry as many as he wants. As far as military conquest, as soon as he went into Medina, he started doing battles and, fighting, and most of his battles he succeeded. So, okay, military wise, he was very good. So there's so many different criteria they can give you example of, like, oh, he did this very well, he did that very well, but it's more subjective. When you look at the bigger picture and you look at the pros and cons, then the picture is not as clear. It's more of like they always attribute the good things to him, but whatever the bad things are, they're like, no, he had explanations for it.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're a Muslim and you want to call in, the way you call in is you type what you see on the top in the firmament. You type it into your browser, and you'll be here. Okay, so you can.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, so let's see. I don't know if Alex is a Muslim or not. Hey, Alex, can you hear me? I guess I can show Nathan's face because he's young. I got to keep the young demographic in here. Alex, you're on. Okay. Oh, he has a bad connection, I can tell. Okay.
If it's the same Alex, there was an Alex who's been in Hamza's den that was commenting on my video, so it could be him, and he isn't a Muslim, but
okay,
maybe it's a different Alex.
Well, I prefer a Muslim call in. I don't know how to say this more forcefully or strongly. All you have is a book. Really? That's all you have? Unless if there's a Muslim who wants to come in and try praying in the name of Allah to light up a water-soaked napkin, I'm game. I'm open-minded.
Well, the one guy, Shirobu, who's been shouting at you in the chat, can't come in because he's eating popcorn, so he can't be on his deen today.
Try again, Alex. Still nothing. And you got to show your face. Sorry. Looks like both your mic and Allah does not want you in here. Yeah, the connection was bad. Wasn't meant to be, Alex.
Apparently, F thingy EF Dewar alive right now or whatever. I don't know what SC Dewar. I don't know what the different letters mean at the front.
Oh, someone says there's a live show going on right now. SC Dawa live. Let me see.
Yeah, SC stands for Speaker's Corner. That's from the UK Speaker Corner. That's where they usually debate and all that stuff.
Of course.
But how I can't enter that live though. That's like, oh, hang on, maybe I can. Okay, I think this looks like a Middle Eastern name. Oh, is that racist? Hi, can you hear me? I can hear. Go ahead. You're on.
Hello?
Hello. You got to turn off your tab, please. Yeah, anybody who calls in, turn off your YouTube tab. Mute it so you don't hear yourself. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I just called in because I watched your live stream with Hamza's den. That was pretty interesting.
Are you a Muslim?
Yes.
Okay. How do you think I did?
I think you did okay. I mean, it's your attempt to be nice, I guess.
My attempt to be nice. Didn't I succeed at being nice?
Yeah, but then again, I mean, if you just like with any other, atheist or materialist or naturalist, I mean, if you probe them further, you challenge their positions. I mean, you kind of they kind of get exposed. To be honest, like that's the
Atheists
whole idea
do.
behind it. Yes. So I mean, if I challenged an atheist for why they believe what they believe, and if it comes down to if you do believe in the idea of truth, right? If you're attempting to arrive at the truth, but at the same time, if you believe that none of the explanations are true, right? Truth is unattainable or unknowable, then it's kind of a contradiction. So that's what I hear mostly from atheists. Like, okay, do you even understand what truth means, right? And then I have.
How do you figure out what's true?
So when I ask the question in relation to the explanation for reality, the agnosticism, atheism, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, there has to be at least one, not even at least, there has to be one explanation or one truth to reality. And the issue is, like, a lot of people don't even understand that aspect of what truth means, right?
What does truth mean to you?
It's like saying, okay, just because we have 1,000 theories on how JFK was assassinated, none of them are true. We know that one of them has to be true.
What's your first name?
Hamza.
Hamza. Same as the other guy?
Hanzala.
Oh, Hanzala. No, that was Hamza I was talking to. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is the biggest thing I'm getting wrong about Islam?
Well, before you approach Islam, do you believe God exists?
No.
Okay, so that is where the problem is, I guess. So, why do you believe that? Like, why is that your position? It's still a position. You might say it's a negative position, but it's given the definition of what who God is, that is the foundation for reality.
I'm open to the idea of a deity, a God existing. Why should I believe a God exists?
Why should you believe a God exists?
Yeah. What's the reasons I should look into? Or
yeah, I mean, there are many reasons. I mean, first of all, it's just
give me one. What you think is the best one in your personal opinion?
Hello?
Because we don't have all day. Just give me one reason why I ought to believe in a deity.
Well, it's the most rational position to hold.
Isn't that very subjective? Like, can some people say this is more rational, and another person say no, this is more rational? Like, it's just. I hear Christians say this all the time about Christianity is the most rational decision. So why should I believe you with Islam versus a Christian?
Yeah. So when you ask the question, like, what is your reason to believe? Then, me giving you an answer will be from my subjective point of view, right? About the objective reality. So the explanation that I can give you at best is why I believe between the dichotomy of God existing and not existing, it is more likely that God exists, right? That's why I believe God exists over God not existing, because of the reasons that I have.
Okay, so we got two things on the table: God existing, God not existing. What would the universe look like if there were no God? Can you imagine that?
If there was no God, it's hard to imagine. You have to kind of think about it.
Yeah, I'm asking you to think about it.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. Like, rationality wouldn't make any sense. Like, the whole idea of our perception of, like, the metaphysical values that we hold.
But let's go into pretend world. Let's just pretend. Let's say you're right about everything you're about to say for the next, I don't know how long you'll be here, but let's just pretend we're making a movie, and the movie is about a universe where there is no God. What sort of things would you put in the screenplay of what this universe would look like?
A universe with no God. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things wouldn't make sense. It's hard to imagine.
Be a lot of randomness in the universe, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to explain why there's a pattern, why there's,
No, but me and you are writing a screenplay, a book on a universe without a God, and we're trying to describe what this universe looks like. I would say a lot of randomness, a lot of death. I mean, no existence, empty space. Well, would you agree?
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. Like, it's hard to imagine, like I said, a universe like that.
Like people in even where there is life, like just random suffering and death and extinction and big rocks hitting planets and them exploding. And would that be a pretty good screenplay of a universe without a God?
I guess so. I mean, like I said, it's not, there would still be some pattern to it, right? I mean, you would still have definitions of things like, what is a rock?
Yep.
Why is it a rock? And, why are we able to conceive? It's really hard. It's like,
yeah, I know it's hard, but I think I'm asking these questions because in order to decide between a universe with a God and a universe without a God, you got to first think about, okay, what would we expect to see in a universe without a God? And so this is why I'm asking you about this screenplay and a movie we're going to make, because this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a movie, a fictional movie about a universe with no God. And it seems like we're describing what we actually see in the world around us, in the universe, right?
Yeah, in this hypothetical screenplay, like, where are we starting off? Like, what is our presupposition? There has to be some basis for...
a presupposition in the movie is that there is no God. And now we're trying to explain, or we're trying to put in what this universe would look like. And let's say there is no God in our universe. Now we got to explain religion. How would you explain all the different religions in the world if there's no God? Within the context
of no God, for me, like, the universe wouldn't exist.
No, but it's a fictional movie we're making, but still we got to make this movie. How what would explain? Would we put all these religions like Islam and Christianity within this movie, the screenplay, even if there is no God?
Yeah, unfortunately, like the hypothetical doesn't make sense. Like there's seems to be a contradiction. Like because if there was no God, there would be no universe. I mean, forget about religion.
Okay, and if that's your position, then I could say, well, there is no God. Full stop. We're done. And you say, no, the universe wouldn't make sense. There has to be a God. Full stop. We're done. But if we're open to ideas and truth, then we have to say, okay, let's really think about this. What would we expect if Allah is real or any God's real? What would we expect if there is no God? Then let's look at the data. Let's look at the evidence.
Yeah. I mean, are you starting from your own existence first or no? Like,
Yes.
do you
Yeah,
agree that reality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're asking the question, what best explains this? That's what you and I are doing here.
Right.
But if you're coming from the point of view that you can't even imagine, you can't even pretend what a universe would look like without a God, I think that we're done. You know, I'll just wish you the best and have a good day.
Okay.
Thanks for hopping on.
Yep. Take care.
I got so many screens up. You gotta unmute yourself, guys.
Oh man.
I've never used the screenplay question before.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's good. It's good, I think. Yeah, it's like where do you even begin? Like, you can't have truth was the first thing he said, right? Like, well, do you think you have truth on your worldview, Doug? Do you think you have some true beliefs?
I hope
Or
so.
is he just going to tell you that? Is he going to just tell you what you believe?
It was kind of interesting that he started off the thing saying that, well, if I scrutinize your worldview, it'll just break down right away, as an atheist. And you're like, okay. And you just scrutinized his worldview for like 5 minutes. And all of a sudden he's like, I can't even imagine anything that could be. It was so ironic. Like, he started off as like, yeah, if I just drill down into what you think is gonna break apart. And it turns out only like 2 or 3 questions into his worldview, and he can't even like comprehend a screenplay where there's no God. I mean, just that was interesting.
Yeah. I understand where guys like, what was his name? Hamza?
No, his was like Hamzul something.
Hamzullah.
Yeah. I understand where he's coming from, and the deistic or the God hypothesis could be true, but if you value truth, I think you have to look at other options.
I mean, just as a side note, whenever you see a lot of these names like Hamzullah, Abdullah, Mashallah, Khalilullah, the reason why the Allah is in the end means of God. So all of these names are basically friend of God, servant of God, believer of God, lover of God, like that. So,
you know what Douglas means? Means what? Dark and murky waters.
This is the way.
I'm from Satan. But if there's any other Muslims who want to hop on, I guess it'll be Muslim Day.
I think the problem that you were raising is that his idea of God doesn't tell you why the universe is this way rather than any other way. It doesn't say, and that's why it doesn't make any predictions, because it's consistent with literally any observation that you'd make. So that's why he's struggling to say what things would be like, with any other state of affairs, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone's that
Hamza's in the chat, by the way.
Is he?
He's in the chat. He's considering something. He's considering joining, I think.
Oh yeah, Hamza, you can come in. We can talk about my favorite topic, hell. The way you get in here, Hamza, is you just type whereby.com/PineCreek.
I'll see if I can type it in time.
Oh yeah, you can just copy and paste the link.
But
See, part of the thing is, my guess is Muslims, like Christians, they're just tired. They're sick and tired of always having to defend their beliefs. And so whenever they have a chance to talk to an atheist like me, they want, okay, now you defend your beliefs. But the problem is I have such a huge advantage on you guys because I'm willing to say I don't know. And I'm okay with that. And every time a Christian hears me say I don't know, or a Muslim hears me say I don't know, some of them will say, see, you don't know. Like that is a good thing. I mean, like that it's a triumph that I know and you don't. So na 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 na. No, it's I think I'm coming from a position of humility and saying I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to fill the holes in the rowboat with ideas that either haven't been demonstrated, shown to be true, that they're basically you're guessing. I'm saying you don't have to guess. No, saying I don't know, you don't have to have an explanation. You do not. You can sleep well at night without an explanation. You can do it. Christians, Muslims listening, you can put your head on the pillow and you can relax in the uncertainty. Just try. Just give it a shot.
Yeah.
Imagine,
like,
imagine uncertainty like a velvet, thick velvet blanket. Just take that uncertainty and doubt and just wrap yourself around it and enjoy it. It's warm if it's cold outside and it's cool if it's hot. I don't know what I'm saying. Go ahead, Nick.
And there's plenty of sin in here. It's like when he's asking you, you know, well, I can't imagine it because on naturalism, he didn't call you a moist robot, which was good. How can you just get a rational universe with matter? Well, how do you get it on theism? How does God make that any better? How is God making it so as my brain produces consciousness and or how does he make my, and then you go, oh, well, it's not a brain because it can't. That's why God makes the soul. Well, how does the soul do it? You tell me about that. What are the causal processes involved? If my soul is changing over time, then it's not just some static thing. There's causal processes. How does it interact with time? How does it interact with the brain? Why?
Yeah, there's no explanatory power in that with the mechanisms. But thank you for the donation, Oscar. SEK. Do you guys know what that is? Satan's electronic currency?
Something krona, I think, but Oscar's in some Scandinavian communist
I know
country.
I think I know Oscar.
He's been in my chats. Yeah,
I like him. A solution to your problem of evil. Maybe God just cares about absolute levels of good, so he creates everything slightly good thing, a massive multiverse of everything from sublime to barely good. I don't think that solves the problem of people having their arms chopped off and screaming in pain and all that stuff. You're talking more about the problem of good, not the problem of evil. But Hamza, if you're still here, you're more than welcome to join. I'll still be nice. Just because it's my show. I want to talk about, Hamza, if you're listening, I want to talk about why you believe hell is real. Because I know you believe in the Old Testament, and it seems like this idea of people suffering for eternity is not found in the Torah. If you value the Torah at all, and if hell is such a big deal, you would think Allah would have mentioned it in the Torah. He didn't, at least not that version of it. You would think the final revelation would have been the first revelation when it comes to hell. I like that.
Doug, for the comment that you had in that conversation, the earlier one with Hamza, then when he was like, well, would it be poof or let them drown? And he was like, well, the suffering that they're going to go through is so minuscule compared to the benefit they're going to get. Isn't that same statement can be turned opposite too? It's like, the disrespect a person shows by not believing in God, it would be so minuscule compared to a lifetime, like centuries and billions of centuries of burning in hell. Compared to that, for what did he do wrong? Well, he did not believe. Well, that 30, 40, 50 years of not belief compared to infinite time in hell would be minuscule, would be like non-essential.
Are
So
there-
why would you punish so much for something that is so insignificant, like 20, 30 years of not belief?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a good boy compared to a lot of people. Like I don't smoke that much. I don't drink that much. No, I won't get into that. Is there universalism in Islam, Bay?
What do you mean by that?
Are there any is there a lot of Muslims who say they're Muslim but believe in that everybody goes to paradise when they die?
Yes, I mean, they are in Islam, of course, like I said before, the ultimate choice or decision is up to Allah. So no matter who you are, even if you're Hindu, Christian, but in the end, it'll be up to God to decide who goes to hell and who goes
So
to
are
heaven.
Muslims in general, or I know there's always exceptions, but are Muslims in general more Calvinistic, to put it in Christian terms, or non-Calvinistic?
I mean, they are more of works. Like your works will depend on what level of paradise you get and all that. There'll be a day of judgment, and your sins.
See,
will
that sounds non-Calvinistic. However, what you said earlier, like God's the ultimate judge, he will so let's say I have terrible works my whole life. If Allah wants me in heaven, I'm there, right?
Yes.
So how's that
In the
just?
end, yeah, nobody trumps Allah. Allah basically decides in the end who goes to heaven and who goes to hell, basically.
So you can be like the best human, the best Muslim on planet Earth and still go to hell, and the worst pagan on planet Earth and still go to heaven in Islam.
And there's actually precedence for that in the Islamic literature, because there's like stories of people like a lady who was very bad and like the worst of worst, and then right before her death she fed a little baby cat from her shoe because nobody was feeding the baby cat water. So I mean, gave water to a animal, and because of that one act of kindness, she was sent to heaven. Things like that. There's a lot of stories like that where ultimately the God just decides, like, oh, I like this aspect of this person, so he goes to hell, or I mean, he goes to heaven, or he goes to hell.
Yeah. Hamza,
But
Hamza, you can still come in. There was some other questions I had about Islam. So it's works-based, but Allah's the final judge, meaning whatever he says goes. So basically, your works may not count, which seems
it's in a concept, in a way I would explain is like your works shows that you did the right thing, but they are so insignificant in front of God's mercy, because the only reason you're actually going to heaven is because he's merciful. Like if it was just left up to you, your works would not get you to heaven. Like they're not that great. Like, I mean, just the fact that he gave you eyes is more of a debt on you than your whole life's good works. So the only reason that he sends you to heaven is because he is the one who's the most merciful, and he lets you come into heaven. It's like that.
Yeah. I'm going to tempt Muslims listening right now. This is my way of getting them in here. I know a lot of Muslims will say that the New Testament's not reliable because, there's no firsthand accounts. Matthew, for example, doesn't claim to be Matthew. I would say that the evidence for the Quran is still highly insufficient for the claim it makes that this is a perfect word of a deity. So here's my example. So if you're a Muslim listening, odds are you're a Muslim male. Imagine your wife came up to you and said, I saw Allah, or no, that's probably wrong. Allah spoke to me and he said this. Now, you know your wife. You've known her for many, many years. You trust your wife. And she looks you straight in the eye and says, I'm not lying. Allah spoke to me. I know it was Allah. Do you believe your own wife? And my guess is you're going to say no. Maybe there's some Muslims out there who would say yes, but I'm talking about there's no doubt Allah spoke to your wife, gave a new revelation. It doesn't contradict the Quran, but it's new. And she says, we need to write this down because this is Allah. Other people could learn from this revelation. Would you believe your wife and would you do it? My guess is no. Now, if you don't do it with your own wife who you love and trust for as many years as you've known her, why would you do it for a guy 1600 years ago? Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, this is special, Doug. The Quran is special. You can't compare my wife to the Quran. Well, we're talking about trust, right? We're talking about faith. You have faith in the Quran because you think it's a reliable text. You have faith in your wife because you've known her to be trustworthy. But I bet you would not believe your own wife if she said that Allah spoke to her and revealed something new.
In Islam Bay, can people pray to like Allah to talk to like Muhammad or something? And that, you know, like how Christians will like pray to Jesus, and so Doug can ask the question as well, like what does he smell like and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of the difference between Islam and Christianity. There's no intermediary. Like everybody who does pray, like we pray 5 times a day, right? So if you're doing the prayer at that time, you're literally directly talking to God, Allah, direct. All of your prayers are directly to Allah. Like Allah do this for me, Allah do this for me, whatever it is. But your prayers are going directly to God. There is no need for an intercessory between you.
And what's like the equivalent of the Holy Spirit? Is there like a, you know, like a burning in the bosom?
Yeah,
I've heard a green light. Is a green light?
No, there's nothing. Nothing compared to that in Islam. Islam is just strictly monotheistic. So in Islam, the whole concept is there's only one God, and that's it, unique. And he has no partners. He has nothing. He's just unique by itself.
But like when you're praying though, sorry, is there like a, you know, there's like a, you know, you've done a, you know, you've had a good praying session when you get like this feeling or experience or something. Sort of
that is just subjective to you, but there's no thing where, and especially what Doug was saying, if my wife says or whatever in a Muslim situation, if my wife would come up and say God spoke to me in the dream, that will be dismissed right away, because according to Islam, the channel of communication from God to humans have been is closed. After Muhammad, there's no communication from God to humans. So just the fact that she says she spoke to God kicks her out of Islam right off the bat anyway.
So there's zero communication
from God directly.
So there would be no Muslim who'd say they would have a personal relationship with Allah?
Yeah. No personal communication. Their relationship is the Quran, the Hadith, all the teaching of the Prophet. That's your connection to God and everything. But there's no, after Muhammad, there's nobody who's going to get a revelation from God directly.
What about a guiding? Like
guiding is all based on the Quran, and the Hadith is the guidance. That is the guidance that God has left.
So if you're a Muslim who let's say is a new Muslim, doesn't even own a Quran, but for some reason feels that they heard something and they become a Muslim. And
yeah, that would not be considered as a communication from Allah. It would just be like your inner, they call it fitra, like the instinct of a human. According to in Islam, there's a thing called fitra. Fitra means your inner disposition. And based on that, they said all humans are born with this inner disposition that they believe in one God, and they will be attracted to that. So if somebody says like, oh, he was a pagan and now he's a Muslim, all they'll say is like your inner fitra drove you towards worshiping one God, because that is, you're born with that innately.
Well, this is very convenient, I guess. Like if, for the Muslims listening, I'm not saying this about your religion, but if I were to create a cult, a religion of my own, and say, okay, here's what I'm revealing, here's the rules, here's the ideas, here's the core propositions. And by the way, anybody who says there's a revelation that adds on to this, don't ignore them, because this is the final revelation. That would be a convenient way to make sure that nobody would change what I have to say.
No, that is how it is in Islam, because that is the seal. Because even the prophet is actually called the seal of the prophet. That means there will be no prophet after this prophet.
Yeah. That's just so convenient.
Are Muslims... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, but Yahweh says that in the Old Testament too. You shouldn't add or subtract to my word.
Yeah, but according to Muslim, that whatever Yahweh said in the Old Testament has been corrupted by humans, so you can't trust it. You don't know if Yahweh actually said that.
Well, why can't a person like me just say that the Quran's corrupted?
Because you're non-Muslim. If you believe that it's all about faith, right? You look at the Quran, I mean, it's more indoctrination. I'm making it into a smaller thing, but you can't say Quran is corrupted because Quran says it's not corrupted, you know, and it has its insider test of faith. In the validation is the Quran itself gives you a test, and the test is, if you think this is not from God, bring a ayah like it, bring a verse like it. If you can't bring a verse like it, that means this is from God.
But that's so subjective. It's like anybody, well, yeah, I think this is like it, but no, I don't think it's like it. Like, how is this powerful?
How much like it?
According to Muslims, I mean, these are some of the very interesting things. According to Muslims, for the past 1400 years, no humans have ever been able to make a single verse like the Quran, ever. So according to them, that's why Quran is the word from God, because nobody still now has been able to make a ayah like it.
What does like it mean? You know, like there's so many.
That is a $1,000 question, because all it says is like it. That's it. That's all it says. So there is no criteria of how it has to be or not. Nothing. It's just the criteria is ayah like it, and that's a verse from the Quran. Like, if you are in doubt that this is from me, bring a ayah like it. If not, then you're the disbeliever, and surely they will not. Like it says like that, you know.
Is there prophecies in Islam?
Yes.
That have been fulfilled? That they would say had been? Well, can you?
Yeah, just like Muhammad has a certain prophecies, and there's a whole bunch of prophecies.
Which is the best one that they say is the best one, or what?
I mean, one of the prophecies is like when I don't know exactly the name that figure. There was a war, right? And I think the Romans and the Persians were fighting, and the Romans lost the war, and it was such a big defeat and all that. And then don't quote me on this, it could be the other way around, I'm not exactly sure, but Muhammad said, well, soon the person who were defeated will be the winner. And sure enough, like 7 years later, the other side won. So he was like, he knew it from before, that sort of thing.
Anytime now, let me guess, if that wouldn't have happened, it wouldn't have been put in the Quran.
That's how prophecies goes, right?
Yeah, Muslims, if you're listening right now, you see how easy an explanation I can give to that. So Muhammad, let's say he really did predict this, there'd be a certain victor in a war, which if there's a war between two people, he has a 50% shot right there, or two kingdoms. I mean, this is ridiculous. Let's say he was wrong, it would never have been found in the Quran, and if he's right, then you stick it in.
It was so unlikely that this power, they would win, because they were so, like, you know, less in power. It was so unlikely at that time that nobody could even have thought about that these people will win. But like a certain amount of years later, they had a war again, and the other side won. So it's like, oh, Muhammad knew this from before.
Yeah, and it was so unlikely that Christianity would become the religion of the Romans. It's like,
I'm getting a word from the Lord right now. He says we're headed towards the biggest economic crash that there's ever been sometime in the future.
Yeah. Might happen tomorrow.
There's other predictions also, which are very interesting also. There's a hadith. Hadiths are the things that the Prophet said, right? Quran is Quran, the word of God, and hadith is what the Prophet said. And there are certain hadiths that in the future, you will have bare feet Bedouins fight with each other to build the tallest buildings. So that prediction has been kind of like fulfilled, in a sense, like you see barefooted Bedouins, the Arabs, and they fight among each other to make the tallest building, which is Burj Al Khalifa in Dubai and Saudi and all that. So they're like, hey, see, it came true.
There's a subscriber of mine, his name is Linguisti, and he's been very supportive of me, I think, in the past, but he's, I think, a little anxious and upset right now. He says Doug just doesn't understand the intricacy of the Quran. Somebody needs to call in and show him. What could I possibly be missing here? What do you think he wants me to know, Bay? Oh, I think we got someone who wants to come in, but you can answer that question, Bay. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's completely subjective in the sense, yes, there are a lot of, if you go into the Quranic sciences and explain, like, you know, the verses, the way they are written, there's a whole field of study behind it. So, I mean, you know, Yes, the Quran is considered a linguistic miracle. And there's a whole thing behind it, why it's a linguistic miracle, the choice of words and the way the words are written, and the whole thing behind it. So yes, according to Muslims, Quran is actually a miracle, and it's a living miracle. So anybody can see it now and see that this is from God.
Well, I think Shakespeare is a living miracle. Issam, can you hear me?
Yeah, dog, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. Go ahead.
Hello. My name is Issam. I am from Algeria, and I am an ex-Muslim. So just I want to pinpoint about the miracle of prophecy of the prophet about Rome and the Sassanids. So, as you know, Bay Yaqeen, most of the hadiths were written hundreds of years after the death of Muhammad. What makes it you sure that he said it at the time, not after the battle happened?
Yeah, I'm not saying that he said it. I'm saying this is their narrative, that the prophet said it, and they go by that. Of course, they are counter to that. That a lot of the hadiths, the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim was all canonized later on, and they, all that stuff is there. But I'm saying that as a narrative from the Muslims, this is one of the narratives that this prophecy was fulfilled.
Yeah, okay. So I have another issue. I put it out in the comments when Dog was in the video with in the Hamza's den. How do you explain that God can't know basic algebra? Okay, say a woman has deceased and left 3 heirs, 2 sisters, and a husband. Okay, how do you partition the inheritance between them according to the Quran?
Yeah, you know what? I actually, Issam, I looked at that verse, but I can imagine how a Muslim can change that to make it fit, because it's not clear if the 2/3 is divided equally between, if it represents, each woman, or if it's combined, and if it's additive.
No, in the historical context, they admit it. They say that the companion of the Prophet Omar, after the death of the Prophet, have altered that, used something called da'ul. So he would.
So you're saying it's corrupted?
Yeah, according to me, it's corrupted. But after the death of the Prophet, after the revelation have ended, Omar have faced this problem. So he had to come with a solution by himself.
Yeah.
And there is some companions of the Prophet who disputed with him, said, "No, you're wrong."
Like when there's problems with numbers and math in the Bible, usually a Christian will say something like, "Oh, this is a scribal error." They'll admit it. Do you think a Muslim would ever say it's a scribal error or a transmission error?
No, never, because Muslims believe that that the Quran is the word of God. It's revealed directly.
If I might, because I want to add something to it. The Quran, the issue with the scribal error is a little bit different in Quran, because the transmission of Quran is not considered only written. The transmission of Quran is oral. So the way they say is like it's been passed down generation to generation orally, perfectly and orally. So even if there's a scribal error, the oral transmission would just take care of that issue. So it's not only like the written Quran is not the only Quran. The actual Quran is the verbal transmission of the Quran.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the point I want to make is that it is from God, not some how do you say it?
Inspired. It's not an inspired word. It's not an inspired word of God. It is the word of God.
Yeah, it's God said it, and the angel Jibril has brought it to Muhammad directly.
Yeah, one thing I ask Muslims on this issue is like if we found a text and the text says that someone got the very words of God in a cave over 23 years and wrote it down, would you believe it? It's not the Quran. We're talking about a different text. And I don't think any Muslim here would believe that. But why do you believe it for the Quran? It's this very simple question.
Because of reasons.
Yeah. Well, and any reason they give, I can just make up with this false text. Oh, it's the most beautifully written text. There's none like it. Oh, and there's prophecies about who won a war in it too. Like Muslims.
Well, is your text been around for 1400 years and
Oh,
nobody
it's
has made a like article like it ever for 1400 years?
It was actually written 1 year before the Quran came out, and it said it was the final revelation.
Well, then it must be wrong, because Quran said everything outside of Quran is wrong. So
yeah,
it's like a circular. You can go around and round, but in the end of the day, it's more indoctrination from the childhood. Like, this is what you have to believe, and this is what you believe. That's it.
Or desperation. It's either indoctrination or desperation. If someone becomes a Muslim after, older in age. Issam, why did you leave Islam? Is there a main reason?
Yeah, there's lots of reasons. And I remember I was around 19 or 18. I studied Islamic scripture and lots of things. The first thing that came to my mind and make me think about Islam is the hadith of the Prophet, that he tells them to kill every Muslim who turns out of Islam, who converts to another religion. That's a mafia-like,
So what's the what would be the true Muslim response to what you just said?
They said that they have explanations, but that they're not convincing. They say that we don't kill anyone who converts. We kill only those who
fight back,
who fight Islam. Yeah, who fight Islam and say things wrong about Islam. Get my idea.
But didn't
they compare that to treason? Basically, they said just like if you leave the religion during the time of the Prophet, leaving the religion was literally like treason, because you're basically weakening the Islamic ummah. So
but
at that time it was it is. And over here, when you ask Muslims, if you change your religion according to hadith, you should be killed. Apostasy is punishable by death. They're like, well, America kills treason, right? The death penalty for treason. So here, even in a secular system, the punishment for treason is death. So why is this so different?
So why do you consider me consider treason in the first place? I still live
because you left Islam and you're fighting against Islam. So you're treason. You're basically committing treason against the Islam.
Okay, I haven't left Islam because I never was a Muslim, but I think it's totally false. I think it's ridiculous. I think the text is just a text made by men. Do I deserve death according to Islam?
No, that is different because you're not actively in a war with Islam. Like the death penalty for apostasy is for people who are Muslim who leave their religion.
No, but I'm an influencer on YouTube. And there might be some people who are on the fence about Islam, and I'm telling them right now, as an influencer, I've gained credibility in their mind over the 700 videos I've made. I'm telling them, stay away from Islam. Do I deserve death now?
No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. And you have never been a Muslim, so that penalty doesn't apply to you. As far as of course, there are certain verses in the Quran that you can manipulate and find them, kill them wherever you find them, and those. But if you take those verses in context, those are about war with the Prophet was having and all. There's a whole bunch of explanation behind it. But as apostasy, like leaving Islam, if you're a Muslim, death penalty is there for apostasy. based on hadith.
But what if you're an apostate in Islam, but you don't fight against? You don't. You keep it a secret.
Yeah, then the decision to give you death penalty or kick you out of the country or whatever is based on the Khilafah, which is the Islamic government. The Islamic State will basically decide what to do with you. So they don't have to directly just kill you. They can just be like, they usually give you 3 days to repent and come back to Islam. And they'll be like, okay, maybe you made a mistake. This is the reason why Islam is true. Come back to Islam. And if you decide to come back in Islam, all is good. But if within 3 days or their set amount of time, if you don't come back to Islam, then the judge or whoever it is, they will decide what to do with you. They can either, punish you, or they can kick you out of the country, or the worst come to worst, they can kill you.
Okay, so I'm going to make my plea to Muslims listening right now. If I wanted to create a religion, if I wanted to create a cult to ensure my membership to grow and no back talking, I would make a rule that if you left the religion, if you come into my religion, my cult, and then leave it, I will kill you. So you have a pretty strong incentive to stay in my cult. What would you think of my religion? Be honest with yourselves. What would you think about my made-up religion where I will kill you if you leave? You would say that's disgusting, right? Just apply that to your own belief system. And then let me know in the live stream or chat or in the comments below, and I will send you your atheist placard from the Wichita Home Office. But thanks, Issam, for coming in. There's another caller here, and this room only fits 4.
Doug, just a question. In Christianity, since you're aware of Christianity, isn't the apostasy also punishable in Christianity also? Like, whoever leaves, something about, I think from the Bible that,
Well, the ultimate punishment is hell. It's separation from God, but there's no mandate to kill an apostate, like from the government point of view or from the church point of view. In fact, this is why I think in general, Christianity is less violent than other religions today, maybe not so much in the past.
What about the Old Testament? Because I do remember reading something on that even in the Old Testament, it is like leaving the religion was punishable by death or something like that.
Yeah, in the Old Testament,
or blasphemy or something.
In the Old Testament, if a woman leaves Judaism and the husband finds out, the husband's supposed to be the first one to pick up a stone and kill his own wife. True fact. It says that. So Christians listening, is that the God you worship and serve? So in general, whenever you're thinking about your own religion, just change it, make it into a different religion, and ask yourself if you're consistent with your standards. If you would say, oh, Doug, that religion you made up, yeah, if you put a clause in there, if you leave, I will kill you. Yeah, that's stupid. That's disgusting. Well, now just reflect it back on your own religion. Both the New Testament and Old Testament order death for those who leave. David Friskin, if you can remind me where it is in the New Testament. I know Jesus killed Ananias and Sapphira for just not for withholding tithes. I need to know the truth. Adrian. Hi, Adrian. I can hear you. Go ahead. Nowhere Judaism mentions in the Bible, Doug. I'm not sure what you're saying, Shirabu, but are you saying the word Judaism is not in the Bible? That could be. I mean, I'm not making that point. I remember reading Bay, the first 3 surahs in the Quran, and to me it was just a bad summary of the Old Testament. I mean, isn't it, like, it's not that hard to write the Quran.
Well, that's because Doug, you don't speak Fusa Arabic, the original Arabic.
Oh, well, yeah, but
If only you knew the original Arabic, you would understand the linguistic miracle that the Quran is.
but Muhammad couldn't speak Plotdeutsch, you know. Können Sie Deutsch verstehen, Muhammad? That is so silly. Adrian, we can't hear you.
Oh, hi. I'm a follower of your channel. I'm from Ecuador. And I'm atheist, and I'm new to the religion of Islam. I don't know much about it, but there's a doubt that has been in my mind for as long as I can remember. And how the Christians usually say that all the violence of the Old Testament is like the Old Covenant, and Jesus gave us a new covenant or something like that. Is there something similar in Islam, or how do they? Because I know there's like modern Muslims. I don't know how to say it. But how do they hide or justify the violence in the Quran? How do they come to?
I understand. Like, how do they make God look good when He kills babies? They don't. They basically say, accept it. God's sovereign. He can do what He wants. He creates people and He can destroy people.
I'm talking about the when God says kill something or fight something. When God says that you should do something violent to other people, maybe to other Muslims who don't follow the rules, or to the other nations or something like that. Because obviously, as I say, I don't know much about the religion, but there's always in the atheist atmosphere saying that there's a lot of verse.
Bay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they would say something similar to a guy like me who says that at times the government has to step in and create justice and make justice. And sometimes you have to kill people because they're hurting other people. Like the reason why we dropped 2 nuclear bombs. I'm not American, but the Americans dropped 2 nuclear bombs in Japan is because it's in the long run saved many more lives. So this is how Allah operates. Sometimes we can't see the future like Allah can, or we can't predict it. But Allah knows best, and so if He says go kill these people, then you just listen, shut up, and go kill those people.
Yeah, I mean, just like you, Doug, I like to steelman the other party, so I will steelman the Muslim position. The reason why there's a lot of this violence versus, or you can call it violent versus, or like fighting versus, is because based on their narrative, the Muslim were the persecuted ones, and they were being persecuted so much. Finally, when they moved to Medina and they had enough power, then God allowed them to fight back. Until that point, they weren't allowed to fight back. And once they got to a point where they had enough power, then the verses came down that, okay, enough is enough. Now you can fight back. Now you can, wherever you see them, you can fight them, and put the hammer down now. So a lot of those verses that you take from the Quran, are justified based on that. That, hey, listen to the context. The context is in war. It's between and it was fighting against oppression of the Muslims.
Hey, Bay, in Christianity, there's quite a few people who are pacifists, like pure pacifists. Is that in Islam though? Are there any pacifistic Muslims?
No, the religion itself doesn't. It's for peace, because basically it's a religion of peace. So it doesn't have a pacifistic thing where you can't do violence at all. It is actually instructed that if somebody has been oppressed or the people are being downtrodden, it is your responsibility to fight for those people. Either they are Muslims or non-Muslim, whoever it is. Islam is not like a pacifistic religion. It's more of like, yeah, you have to fight. And there's actually verses in the Quran says Allah has ordained fight for you, even though you might not like it, but you still have to do it because Allah knows best. Things like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Adrian, for your question. I booted you so to make room for K2021. Hey, K2021. It's pretty dark in there.
Hello. Yeah, I'm sat in my car. So I don't know. Can I turn my mic off? I don't know. I've not really done this before when I've ever called in or anything. So it took me quite a while getting on. So I probably missed a lot of the conversation. So I don't actually want to have my cam on. You get what I mean? So
Okay. What are you a Muslim?
I am a Muslim. I actually watched you. Your name's Doug, yes? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I usually watched you a few years ago. I don't know. I'm not interrupting the middle of your conversation here, am I? Or
No, go ahead. No.
Well, I watched you a few years ago actually, and you popped up the other day again on Hamza's Den. Is that right?
Right.
That's right. So the original time when I watched you, I actually found you very interesting. I found you to be quite open-minded and things like this.
Hey, I'm married.
And,
I'm married, so don't get any ideas.
No, it's not that. Sorry. So basically, there was something that turned me off you at that time, and that was you were explaining something. You said, okay, the Christians believe this, okay, the Jews believe this, and the Muslims just believe what the Jews believe. That's what you said. And a couple of years ago, as soon as you said that, I completely stopped listening to you. And then you came up onto Hamza's Den again the other day. Yeah. And I started obviously listening to the things you were saying now, and I've just tuned in for 5 minutes on this. Now, basically, I'm not here to try and kind of convince you or defend any kind of belief system or anything like that. I just want to kind of speak to you as a person, from one person to another person, because I appreciate, the story that you told with regards to what happened with you, and you came to the conclusions that all of these belief systems that people are imposing on you, when you broke them down, you found that, this doesn't actually make any sense to me. There's a lot of injustice there. There's a lot of things there, yeah? And then you came to that conclusion, and all of it seems, what I would say is, then you decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and I'm going to label all of the religions and all of the belief systems as the same. Now, what I'm doing is I tuned in because it said, I thought, right, let me subscribe to this guy again. And today it said, my thoughts on Hamza's Den. Is that right? And I started watching, and I saw you. And all of these different people are coming on. Some of them are ex-Muslims, some of them might be Muslims, and they're giving you their opinions about, well, this verse probably means this, or that verse was meant to mean that. What I want to say to you, Doug, is what I believe. Now, I personally went through the same thing as you. I was brought up in what I would call a sect of Islam, yeah, where particularly you know how you've got in Christianity, you've got your Protestants and Methodists and this and that, and some are a lot different than others, yeah? Okay, so what you find is that you're indoctrinated into a certain belief system. Now, I felt that look, I've been indoctrinated into this, and I'm told that my particular flavor of Islam is the best, and it didn't sit well. But then as that later in life, you see, is that people started saying that, well, Islam teaches this, Islam teaches this, Islam.
Hey, K2021, I need you to get to the point quicker. You're starting to lose me.
The point is that you personally haven't read the Quran, from what I can tell. You haven't studied the Quran. So, for example, when you're getting people's opinions, you're saying, well, the Quran says just kill people, and God says kill them, so kill them. You understand? You haven't read the Quran. So, for example, at the start of the verses of fighting, it says, so fight in the name of God, those that fight you, but do not transgress, because God does not like transgressors. Now, that's the base verse. Everything that comes after that, yeah, that's the base verse you work off. Now, you can get all the bays in the world, you can get all the ex-Muslims in the world, but if someone says to you that this is what it is, you have to read it yourself and not say, well, they believe that.
Hey, K2021, what would you say to a person? Yeah. What would you say to a person who's not a Christian, is against Christianity, and a Christian says, well, all you have to do is read the New Testament?
I would say that, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the New Testament. I'm gonna read the New Testament, and whatever case that you're making, I'm gonna come to my own conclusions about it. I'm not gonna go to another Christian, or I'm not gonna go to. It's like going to thinking that, right, I want to know something about Jews. Let me go and ask Adolf Hitler. Okay, mate, what do you know? What do you think about Jews? Do you see what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Let me read Mein Kampf, yeah. Let me read all of that, and then obviously the conclusion.
What's the core proposition of Islam?
The core proposition of Islam is that the air that you're breathing, the fact that you exist. So basically, atheism, I watch debates and debates and debates about it.
What's the core proposition of Islam?
There's one line in the Quran which says, how can you be an atheist? How can you disbelieve in God when you were non-existent? He brought you into existence.
What's the core proposition of Islam?
He's going to cause you to die, and he's going to bring you back again. Your life and everything that you're doing now he has given you to test you. That's the core proposition. And you're going back to him, and he's going to get every human being that ever lived back together again, and justice is going to be served. That's what the core proposition is.
What do you mean, justice? What do you mean by that? Justice will be served.
Justice will be served in that in the injustice that we see in the world and everything that's going on, because all the actions that we do have consequences, and we have a free will to do good actions or bad actions. Now we have that choice. Now those good actions, sometimes we can see the evil consequences, sometimes we can't.
K2021,
So,
you're doing a lot of talking, but you're not saying much.
What is it? You're asking me what the purpose of life is. I'm saying the purpose of your life is you're being tested.
Well, let me ask you a very simple question. Why should I be a Muslim?
Yeah. Because it's the only, I think it's very subjective, and I believe it's the only belief system that makes sense and is just.
Okay. A Christian said that same thing to me the other day.
You have to test what they say.
Okay.
So say a Christian says this, I'll say, okay, then why does the Bible tell me to kill babies? That's the first thing I would say.
Why does the Bible say to kill babies? You're saying that that's why you rejected Christianity?
I'm saying that isn't just. I can't see any justification why God would tell any human being that, you know, you've met babies, yeah?
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah.
Too.
Is there anything on or off this planet that would make you want to murder a suckling child, which is exactly
if you found out that Allah commanded the death of babies, would you leave Islam?
Allah didn't command that.
If he
That's
did,
a what if.
If he did, would you leave Islam?
Allah, do you understand? It's not possible for Allah to be unjust.
No,
you can't give me you can't. Well, what if you found out that, you know, Allah rapes babies? What kind of question is that? It's not a question. What I'm saying is that Allah has introduced himself to you, Doug, personally.
Are you saying it's impossible for Allah to command the death of babies?
Yes, to command a human to kill babies. That's what I'm saying. Not to take the life of a baby himself in the natural form or a natural event that he has decided.
What about a flood?
I'm telling you. Sorry?
Would you leave Islam if Allah killed babies in a flood?
No.
Why not? Isn't that unjust?
People die in floods.
No, but Allah caused the flood.
People die in fires. People can die. You know what it is? The life is his to take. Yeah, but it's not for him to command. It wouldn't be befitting for a God to command a human being to unjustly take another person's life. The only time you can take a human being's life is when there's a just reason.
Isn't whatever Allah commands just by definition?
No, it's not. But it's when you say whatever Allah commands, there's a justice system. Your legal justice system, whatever country you live in, is very, very intricate. It's not a case of all right.
K2021, listen very closely to my question. If Allah commands something, is it just?
It has to be just, yeah.
So if Allah commands the death of a baby, is it just?
We can judge it. We can judge whether it's just. It's not a case of because someone says
you can judge Allah.
No, I'm saying that, look, a judgment. If someone says that, look, this is the word of God. Yeah, this is the word of God. Yeah, and then that word of God says that, right? Okay, you know, you can kill someone. You can kill someone unjustly, and that can't be the word of God. It's by definition. If Allah describes himself as the just, that means that he can't be unjust. Do you understand? It's like
he can't. I don't know. So whatever Allah commands is just by definition, correct?
As if yes, all of his genuine commandments.
You're very excited, K2021. You need to take a deep breath and just relax a little bit.
So when time I've ever done it,
yeah, it's okay. I understand.
Yeah.
But my point is that you said before that you would leave Islam if Allah commanded the death of a baby, commanded a person to kill another baby, right?
So basically, Islam means you're submitted to the will of Allah, yeah.
Right. Now, but can you answer my question?
The reason, no. Let me answer your question, please, in the way that I'd like to answer your question. Okay. I have come to that conclusion of submitting myself to the will of Allah because of a reason. Because of the fact I have looked at every teaching of Islam and all the other religions of the world, and I have made a decision as to whether those teachings are just or unjust. Now, if you turn around to me and you say, well, Allah has given you an unjust. I would say, show me where. The Quran says that test this Quran, test it. You know, think about it. Think
If
about
I become
it
a
over and
Muslim,
over.
if I become
Sorry?
a Muslim, if I become a Muslim and then leave a year later, is it just to have me killed?
No, of course it isn't. Not in any way, because it says, the Quran says that, look, if a person becomes a Muslim and then leaves and then becomes a Muslim and then leaves and then becomes a Muslim, then this person is what, you know, it doesn't say to be killed. It says that this person has lost himself with God to the nearest meaning. Sorry, I don't know the exact verse.
So if, hang
But
on. If another Muslim tells me the opposite, who do I believe? Because I've heard
then
Muslims say,
what you do then, you see, is, for example, you went on EF Dawah, yeah? When you went on EF Dawah, there's a gentleman that comes on it. He's called Sheikh Usman something, Farouk or something. Now, this guy, he is what you call a Muslim scholar who's a mufti who deals with religious legislation. What you talking about, you see, is you're talking about vigilantism, yeah? Vigilantism is not allowed and it's not accepted in any kind of legal system in the world.
I said the government
anywhere.
kills me. If I become a
Sorry?
Muslim, and if I become a Muslim in a Muslim country, let's say Pakistan, and if I leave Islam a year later and the government tries and executes me, is that just?
I don't know. I would have to see every single kind of circumstance of the situation. Okay, for example, yeah,
What circumstance would it be just?
Let me finish. Okay, so for example, if Pakistan was at war with India, for example, yeah, and then you say we're a military officer in the Pakistani army, yeah, and then you apostated and say, you know what, I'm becoming a Hindu and I'm joining the Indian army, then yeah.
No, I'm not joining any armies. I'm just...
Doug, if I can interject,
okay.
I'm originally from Pakistan. So in Pakistan, there's a rule called 295.
Look, I'm not here, my friend. Let me just think. I'm not here to defend Pakistan. I am here basically to tell you to, Doug, stop listening to every man and his dog and read the Quran and come to the, you know,
Why?
whatever you be.
Why?
Just let me finish. Let me finish, Doug, because, you know, you, in your education, in whatever religion you came from, yeah, you basically, what you've got to do is you've got to deconstruct everything that you think you know. Do you understand?
Why should I give the Quran any respect or any time?
As an intellectual person that wants to discuss it and wants to call himself an atheist, yeah, then you should do yourself the intellect, the dignity that, look, if I'm going to reject something or reject something along with everything else, I should at least give it the time of day where I can say to someone that, you know what,
hey,
I've read it.
There's books on how to construct or put together a carburetor for an old 1975 Chevy. I could read that as well. Why should I give the Quran any time of my day, any respect?
Because the author claims that he's your creator.
Okay, I like that answer. Because the author claims to be my creator. There's many books that claim to be my creator. Why should I give the Quran any special?
Name me another one. Name me another one where the author specifically says that I, the person who has sent this book out. No. Jesus, in the book, Jesus does not claim to write anything down. He has not claimed to write down any of the Gospels. No, sorry. No, he doesn't claim. Where does he claim to write down the New Testament? Nobody knows the New Testament. Authors are anonymous. You know that, Doug.
This is why I don't go into the weeds.
This is why you don't go into what?
There are many books. Are you saying there's only one book where there's that?
You tell me of another book in existence today where the author says, "I am the creator of the heavens and earth," and Doug, you tell me. Show me where does it say that? Where does the author say that?
Are you seriously saying that there's no other books on planet Earth where someone says I'm the creator?
I've not come across one. I'm not telling you there isn't. I haven't read every book on planet Earth.
Let's assume you're right. Let's assume you're right. There's no other books on planet Earth where someone writes down that the author claims that there's the creator is the author of this book. Why should I believe that it's true?
I'm not saying you believe. You asked me the question, why should I read it? I says that at least gives you enough reason to read it.
Okay, but why is it important to read the Quran if it says that the Quran is authored by the creator? Why is that important?
Because as a human being, it's important, I think, because nobody's asked the question, nobody's managed to answer the question, who are we, where have we come from, and what are we doing here? And I think I think that it's very, very important that human beings have this direction, and human beings feel that as well. And what they'll do is they'll look for this direction in many, many different things, and it's not working, Doug. Whatever other systems we put into place are not working. You said the other day, you know what? I'm happy enough. My life is fulfilled, X, Y, and Z. Yeah. As long as there's hungry children in the world, as long as there's this mess, you know, we have to try and look at all the options that are on the table.
So I'm hearing I should read the Quran because it will give me explanation, maybe hope, maybe purpose in life. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm telling you that the Quran, the author specifically says that I'm the one that created you. This is why I created you, and this is what's going to happen. You're going to get tested. So basically, you're going to get born. You're going to come into this world. You're going to get tested over and over again. And some of you are going to be rich. Some of you are going to be poor. Some of you are going to be black. Some of you are going to be white. Some of you might have arms. Some of you might not have arms. Some of you might have brains that work really well. Some of you don't. Every single person in every single situation is going to get tested according to their situation. After they've been tested, all of you are going to get called together, and you're going to be.
Yeah, I understand.
Do you understand? Now,
yeah, tested and all these things.
Now also it tells you that look, there's certain sicknesses in human beings. Alcohol.
Okay, I've muted you because you're talking and you're rambling, in my opinion. Now, you and I are in the forest. We're walking together in the woods, and you trip on something on the ground, and we dig up something, and we dig up a book. Me and you, we dig up a book, and we start reading this book. And in the book, it says that this book is written or authored by the creator of the universe. Do you believe that? Would you believe that this book is telling the truth?
No, because the person, for example, the person I would need to know. Now, this is where, you get into the territory of obviously the prophets as well. Do you understand that there's certain tests and there's certain levels and there's certain things that they have to pass as well?
Let's just take it step by step. I'm hearing you say you would not believe it. Okay, so what would be one thing that might cause you to believe that this book was authored by the creator of the universe?
So basically, for me, that first word, for example, this is now subject. Do you understand? I'm giving you a subjective opinion now. I believe that up to the point where the Quran came out with the word read, yeah?
We're not talking about the Quran. We're talking about a book that we tripped on in the forest.
Where did the book come from? Who wrote it? What language is it in?
Okay, great
when
question.
Was it written? All of these questions.
Whether the book was written 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, would you say that it's more likely to be true either way?
No, what I'm saying is I need to know where that book came from. Things don't pop up. I appreciate that you believe that, universes pop into out of existence, but I don't believe that. So as far as I'm concerned, a book can't just pop into existence because I'm walking.
Okay, no, the book didn't pop into existence. Someone wrote it on behalf of the creator of the universe. You and I, we open it up and we read this. And to be honest, you and I both laugh. This is silly. This wasn't written by the creator of the universe. But what would we have to see on the next page if we were to flip the page in order for you to say, oh, maybe it was written by the creator of the universe?
The first page, the first line is fantastic. If it says, praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, what a fantastic way to start a book from the universe, from the creator of the universe. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the... No, line number 1.
No, we're not talking about the Quran. We're talking about this book that we tripped on in the forest. If it said on the very first page, the very first sentence, that this book was authored by the creator of the universe, would you believe it? I think you said no, right?
No, Doug, the book that I've tripped up on, I've picked it up, I've opened it, and it says, praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. There you go. What a fantastic line.
No. In this book, it doesn't say Allah is the creator. It says Myron is the creator. And in fact, in the sentence 2, it says, there will be a book written after me that says Allah is the creator, and that's the false God. Would you believe it?
Should take a leaf, then Myron should take a leaf out of Allah's book and start his book the same way. Because there's no better way for the creator of the universe to start a book.
I think your belief is unfalsifiable, to be honest. Is there anything you could learn?
That's that. My belief is subjective, Doug. You know that. I came on to tell you that just have an open mind and come to your own conclusion after reading.
Okay.
That book, you see, it addresses you. It says, it addresses people differently. So it says it addresses humankind, all humankind. It addresses all you who.
Yeah, many religions address all humankind, But here's a question for you. I'll answer my own question, but I want you to go first if you don't mind. What would cause you to leave Islam? What would you have to learn, see, hear, read about?
Look, do you know when I believed that Islam wasn't just, yeah? So the sect that I grew up in, yeah, it had certain kind of practices and things like that where, you know, I thought it was very close, it was very racist, it didn't include everybody. I thought all of these things. And then, you know, people, you've got obviously, I don't know which part of the world you're in, but basically we've got...
I need a direct answer, like one sentence would be good. What would cause you to leave Islam?
Nothing at this moment, nothing.
Okay, nothing. Okay, I'll tell you what would cause me to accept Islam. I'm holding here a little napkin to clean my glasses. I have water here. If I dip it in water and you pray in the name of Allah to light it on fire, I'll become a Muslim. I'll definitely read the Quran then. See how specific that test is?
No, but he talks very, but this is why I want you to read the Quran. He talks to you about arrogant people. You know what?
Okay, if I'm arrogant, then I'll go to hell. But to me, that's a much higher standard than the subjectiveness of, oh, it's beautifully written. Oh, it's prophecies about wars. Oh, it's never unjust. To me, this is way better. 1,000 times better. Dip it in water. Look, this is real water. Pray in the name of Allah to light it up. We have 411 people watching. I'm not here to deceive or trick myself. That's a way better marker than what you have. And you just admitted that there's nothing that would change your mind. So who's more open-minded, me or you?
Doug, the point is that even the people at the time of the Prophet said, we want a Quran that we can hit against a mountain and the mountain will become a garden. That's what they wanted. Do you understand? But the thing is, you see, is miracles, they're good for you. It'll work for you. But what about, you know, people generations and generations outside you? What it is that something...
Allah can give them a miracle too.
They look, at the end of the day, Hamza explained it to you as well. He said, look, it's something which it allows you to use your intellect without throwing your soul. Well, I can't remember what he said, but he gave you quite a nice analogy where Christianity, you got to put your intellect in a box, and I think he said that with atheism you have to disown your soul. You have to put your soul in a box, because in atheism your soul doesn't exist. Whereas, you know, most people, even you maybe, do feel as though, you know, you've got a human soul, you've got a spirit, and you've got a spark. What it does is it explains that spark, you know. Now, at the end of the day, it's very subjective. Hey, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I'm saying to you is, at least the only reason I've come on, and I'll jump through all the hoops you want me to, but I just want to try and convince you.
Could you be wrong about Islam?
I could be wrong about anything, but it doesn't make the objective truth.
How would you figure out if you were wrong about Islam?
Do you know what it is? Is that I'm not here to prove it right or prove it wrong. I'm trying to say to you that if there's an objective truth, whether I believe it, whether you don't believe it, whether all of us believe it or don't believe it, it's still going to be the objective truth. I agree. I believe that I could change my mind tomorrow. Do you understand? Will that stop? Would that stop it being the objective truth? It wouldn't stop it being the truth. The only thing
if the objective truth is that Islam is false, would you leave Islam? So
if you convince me that was the objective truth, yeah, then I would have no choice.
Okay. So can you imagine anything that might convince you that Islam is false?
No, I genuinely can't, because of the fact that, you know...
Then we're done. I mean, why continue talking? I still don't know why. The answer you gave me on why I should become a Muslim is you can make sense of life, have hope, meaning, purpose, but there's many false religions that have hope, meaning, purpose. They believe truly that they're right, and they still have this hope, meaning, and purpose. There's many belief systems that think that they have the best sense of justice. All those reasons you gave, I think you would have to admit that false religions have those same reasons. They sincerely believe they're right. You sincerely believe you're right, but you don't have any markers to show that you might be wrong. And to me, that shows me you don't value this objective truth you speak of. You got to have a marker in your life, just like a Hindu does, just like a Christian does. If I were to learn this, if I was to see this, I would give up my faith, because then I would know I'm wrong. If you have no way of figuring out you're wrong, you're stuck. But thanks for coming on.
Wow.
Oh man. I mean, I was saying in the chat to people, be nice, because that's what it sounds like when when you start seeing the issues and you're trying to rationalize and go in a bit. It can be pretty traumatizing.
JC is in the live stream chat now. I mean, in the room here. JC, can you hear me? Paul.
Hello?
Yeah, JC, you're on.
Oh, give me a second.
You're in the wind, I can tell.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, cool. No, I just had the other tab open. I think that's the reason why. So I was listening into the stream. I think a few callers ago, I don't know if it was like maybe 2 callers ago, you were posing a thought experiment of, I guess, a screenplay. Can you just kind of run that by me again, just so that I can understand, where that was going? Or
yeah, it was a new thought experiment that I just thought of on the spot. It's basically for a thought experiment against the design argument. If we're writing a screenplay about a universe that has no God in it, and we got to actually create a narrative, describe this universe and so forth, how would you describe a universe in a screenplay for a movie that has no God in it? What would it look like? What sort of things would we put in or leave out?
I see. So I think my thought into that was whatever screenplay and characters that you want to add and storyline that you want to add, ultimately as humans, because we have the ability to rationalize, we would look for an explanation, right? So if, let's say, for example, you are one of the characters in the story, and you have a family, you have a wife, you have a kid, you acknowledge that there's existence, you acknowledge that you exist, people outside of your own existence exist, like your family, people outside of other minds, such as, let's say, planets, everything else exists. And I ask you, would you say there's an explanation for all of these things that you acknowledge? What would you say?
Yeah, the explanation is that the universe is necessary.
No, but you would still acknowledge that there is an explanation, right?
Yeah.
Right. So let's take your screenplay a little further and imagine that all the things that you acknowledge it, but imagine there is no explanation. What would you say to that?
I don't know. I would say I don't know.
So would you say that regardless of what we want to believe, it's very intuitive for us to conclude that as soon as you acknowledge that there is some sort of existence, that there must be an explanation? Is that fair?
I don't think so.
Why?
Well, why must there be?
Well, that's the thing, right? So that's the reason
well,
why.
Okay, I guess if I earlier considered necessity as an explanation. Would you say that's an explanation?
Well, there could be a necessary explanation of a necessary explanation. I mean, you can keep going and going, but
would you say necessity is an explanation? Yes or no?
It is a type of explanation.
Well, there you go. So I would just say that in this universe where there is no God, the explanation for it is by necessity. That's an explanation.
No, yeah, I agree, and you do accept that. Just the idea of saying after acknowledging existence that there is no explanation, like that would be absurd.
I don't know. I think necessity is probably the last stop on the street for the mailman. It's like when people say, I don't know what the explanation is, maybe it's just a brute fact and it's necessary. But anyhow, where is this going? I can tell you have a philosophy degree or some credits, right?
No, not at all. I wish.
Oh, you wish?
I don't.
Yeah,
but no. I mean, look, it's something that I'm a person who at least I would like to think I'm open-minded. I do have discussions with people of all other beliefs, whether you're an atheist or non-atheist, and I personally believe, regardless of if one believes there is a true religion out there, I think it starts with their personal ontology of what's their worldview of their reality, and their own presuppositions of what they feel from their
Yeah.
lens is reality,
But
right?
people's worldviews change, right?
Absolutely, and that's the thing, right? So it's I think if a person is truly open-minded, whether you feel like you have a true belief, whether it's a religion or not a religion, it's something that you should. I feel the journey of life is questioning things. You can hold a position, right? But doesn't mean that it's not going to change over time, right? So the point of me asking this question of, can there be a world where there is no explanation? Well, to me, that ultimately makes me think, okay, maybe there is no existence.
Yeah, but that wasn't the
obviously that's against.
That wasn't the thought experiment. The thought experiment was
no.
a world where there's no God.
Right. So the thing is that that scenario, I feel like it contradicts what we already acknowledge in reality. To say so, if you're saying that, okay, let's imagine that there is no God, right?
Mhm.
That ultimately to me means that there is no explanation.
Why do you say that?
Because I don't see a world where you can acknowledge existence and conclude that there is no explanation whatsoever. That's the reason
No,
why
but
I
I'm not
started
saying
off
that
with
there's no
question.
explanation. I'm saying there is an explanation
Yeah, and so to me personally,
without a God.
so yeah,
Do you believe there
and-
can
and
be
to
an
me,
explanation for the universe without a God?
I would say the source. So this is I'll try to phrase it in a simple way.
You can just
So
say lean yes or lean no.
yeah, no. I would say no,
Okay.
and this is the reason, right? I mean, there could be multiple reasons, but I feel God is the source of the inference of the best explanation of why there is existence. So if there's a void of an explanation, then therefore there is no existence to explain.
How would you explain God's nature?
Yeah. So and this is the part, right? So what God is, I would say, is the secondary step of whether it's theology or stories passed down or whatever the case may be, right? So
No, but
to know what God
why is God?
God being the source of existence, well, that's something that you would have to ask God. It's the same way if you ask me why you exist, I would have to ask you, right? So
Are you saying you don't have an explanation for God's nature?
no, I'm saying we got to start with step one, which is
What is the explanation from your vantage point of why God's nature is what it is as opposed to something else?
Oh, because if he is a necessary existence, then he couldn't be any other way, right?
If the
So
universe is necessary in its existence, it can't be any other way.
right, because your position is that the universe is a necessary existence, correct?
Correct. And your position is that God's nature is necessary, correct?
Yeah.
So we're the same. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. But what's the difference? But your assumption is that the universe can explain everything. It has the ability to explain every single
Is your
thing.
assumption that God can explain everything?
Yeah, if God,
That's mine too then.
How does that work? So
How does God explain everything?
So if for anything to have given any explanation, it must have some sort of agency, some sort of power, knowledge, or will to explain something.
Why is that?
Because I can't go to a rock and ask itself to explain itself. And I haven't seen that happen. So why would the universe explain itself without having any of those features?
By just being what it is.
Yeah, and that's us imposing what the universe is. It's not the universe telling us what it is.
And maybe you're imposing what God's nature is and not God telling you what it is.
Well, that's a topic of theology, which is not what I'm touching on, right? So
what type of Christian are you?
I'm not a Christian.
What type of theist are you?
I'm a Muslim, but again,
you're a Muslim.
Yes, I am a Muslim. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you believe, if God is necessary in the explanation for the universe, why do you believe it's that God?
Well, at least from my study of all the different explanations, every religion can have something that they describe as God that may make sense. My understanding is, if a God exists, and let's say since the beginning of human history, there has always been one message and one explanation of what God is. The only thing is, over periods of time through history, people make up their own different versions And we've seen that obviously, if you just study any basic class of
Why do you
world
believe Allah is the one and true God?
I believe that the explanation of Allah in the Quran is the most coherent, and that's the reason why I believe it. And sure, anyone can scrutinize it, and
Is there any
fault or
reasons
whatever.
to think that the Quran is not the perfect word of Allah or of a God?
Well, you got to reason with what the Quran claims.
For you
it has
personally,
within itself.
what have you doubted about the Quran in your life?
Like, why would God even send a word? Why would God even send a message for mankind?
And what answer did you get?
Well, the answer that I personally got was, at a point where I was comparing myself to, let's say, if I had a deistic belief, where God could care less. He just created a universe.
Do you
created
really?
everything.
What's your first name?
Jawad.
Jawad?
Yeah.
Do you really believe that an angel Gabriel spoke the very words of Allah to a guy named Muhammad in a cave over 23 years?
Yeah, I have no reason not to believe that.
You have no reason not to believe that.
Mhm.
What do you think I'm thinking right now?
Well, you have to tell me. I don't know what you're thinking.
You have no reason to think that a creator God sent an angel to a man in a cave and told him these are the very words of God? You have no reason to. Can you guess what I'm thinking?
You're probably guessing that that's my starting point. That's where I have to begin to believe, and then the rest of it follows, and it's true. But for any person who, let's say, for example, outside coming in, let's say a person studied Islam and then they let's say they accepted Islam, that's probably not even the first place that they would begin. Oh, really? That's what happened? Okay, now I'm definitely like, that's not basically the basis of where you would begin. I get the contention you may have, like, oh my God, that's like such a naturalistic, supernatural event. How can one believe
Well,
that?
no, even then, like I can say to you, okay, I'll grant you that a creator God exists. But still, isn't it unlikely that a creator God would give his word to a guy named Muhammad in a cave and say, through an angel, Gabriel? Like,
Why would that be unlikely?
well, let me ask you this. How many people in the world who said that they've gotten a revelation from God have been right about it? And how many do you think have been wrong about it? Do you think it's more than
Sure.
50% more right? Or
Yeah, I'm sure there's many, and at the same time, so in terms of the Islamic narrative, we believe that there have been thousands of prophets all throughout human history, right? Sure, we don't have a recollection and a historical document of every specific one, so I mean, it's hard to say, okay, is it 50% or not? But I could still say there have been many people in history who have received revelation as a guidance for mankind or their specific geographic location.
but you believe that because the Quran says that, right?
Yeah, of course.
So the real issue is, why do you put your trust in the Quran? Why do you think a God would send an angel to talk to a guy in a cave for 23 years and say, this is the perfect word of me?
Yeah.
What reason would you have to believe that?
Yeah, so I don't want to give you like a long-winded, but this is what I would suggest. So the person who claimed that was Prophet Muhammad, correct? I think,
Right.
whether you believe in him or not, I think this is basically something that what you're saying is based on, the person who claimed this. What I would do and would expect anyone to do is assess and test that claim. See the person who claimed, look into the person he was, why would he claim this? What is he getting out of it?
What would you have
is
to
he-
find about the person Muhammad to doubt that claim?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
What would you have to find out? You said to test the claim, to look into the person of Muhammad. Let's say I told you that there's a book that has a creator God in it who says that he revealed himself to Myron. And let's say you and I investigated Myron, we found no fault in him, that he's the most upright man that we've ever found on planet Earth even. Would that still make it more likely that a creator God gave the very words of himself to Myron?
Yeah, again, it's based on the reasons, right? So, one can claim, whether, he's just making this up, or he was deluded, or maybe he was, possessed by that angel, right? So these are possible things that you can kind of see. Okay, were there any motives
Do you
for him
think
to lie about it?
Do you think more people are deluded in life who say that they've had a revelation, or more people actually got a revelation from God? What's more
Well,
likely, delusion or
yeah, it's
actual?
no, it's definitely possible. But I would also say a person who's deluded, they'll be consistently.
No, I'm asking which is more probable, not possible. Is it more probable that a person who says they've had a revelation from God, is it more probable they're deluded or they actually received a revelation from God? Which do you think is more probable?
It depends. It honestly depends, because
If that's all we
let's say
know,
that-
we know nothing else. Someone makes a claim and they say, I received this directly from the Creator God. Now I'm asking you, is it more likely that they're deluded or that they are telling the truth?
I would say we would be jumping to a conclusion either way, right? Whether I say yes, this person definitely got a revelation, or this person is either way, based on nothing else.
If someone on the streets walks up to you and said, "Hey, last week I flew over the Grand Canyon unaided," are they more likely telling the truth or deluded?
Same thing. I would have to really assess them and ask them why they believe what they believe.
If you talked to me face to face and I said, on the count of 3, I can make you invisible, do you think I'm more likely telling the truth or deluded?
Are you a magician?
I think the answer is obvious, is it not?
Well, look, there's a nuance over everything. If you want to filter everything to something very simple as black and white, we can do that. But I mean, if
well, the
it's something
Quran's either the perfect word of Allah or it isn't, right? That's pretty black and white.
No, but hold on. We're talking about your premise on, okay, the person who said that, hey, an angel came to me in a cave and said that these are things outside the Quran. I'm not saying the Quran is true because the Quran says it's true. I'm simply telling you there are tangible things outside of the Quran that we can assess, right? Whether it's history, whether it's things about the person that is claiming. We can assess all these things within a probabilistic framework and see, was this person lying? Were they deluded? Were they possessed by an angel, if you believe, or a demon, if you believe in those kind of things?
In human history, what's more likely? The people are lying or received a line about a revelation, or they actually received it? Throughout the course of history, what's more likely? The people are deluded about receiving a revelation or actually receiving it? Over the course of history,
that's what I'm saying, right? So this kind of goes back to my previous point. We believe from Islamic perspective that there have been thousands of prophets throughout different areas of the world, right? So whether I know who they are or not, I believe there were true prophets before Prophet Muhammad. He's just the final prophet.
But it's because the Quran told you this, right?
Yeah, so exactly. So we were kind of going in a circle now. So I'm saying we have to look at things outside the Quran now, right? This is the part that I'm saying.
Can name one thing outside the Quran that makes you think that Muhammad actually received a revelation from a creator God?
Right. So the basic that most of the people, if they have studied Islam, is who he was. So if he was an illiterate man, right, who did not know how to read or write, and now it's all of a sudden, making all these, you can say these, let's say verses, right, or linguistic things that he's saying in the language.
Okay,
people will notice.
Okay, I got it. So one reason you think that the Quran might be the perfect word of a creator God, Allah, is because he was an illiterate man, and now he is responsible for writing this book. Correct?
I would say it's one reason. It's one of many reasons.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a build-up. Obviously, as soon as people didn't hear him, they didn't just say, "Oh my God, what are you saying? You must be,"
Okay, I understand. Now, I want you to be as honest as you can with me here. There's 2 explanations for this. Let's say you're right that he was an illiterate man and he's responsible for either whatever creating this book. One explanation is that God revealed it to him and did some type of miracle, and the book was produced. Another explanation would be what? What would be the second best explanation for how we could have the Quran and how Muhammad could be illiterate and we could still have the Quran today, but it has nothing to do with the creator God? What would be an explanation for that?
So sorry, I kind of missed the second part.
What's the second best explanation for the Quran existing?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that it's not from a creator God, and assuming Muhammad was illiterate.
Yeah, as a possibility, you can say that if it's not from God, then obviously it's from man.
Right, but you said that he was an illiterate man, and yet
Mhm.
we still have this book called the Quran. How would you explain this? Assuming that it's not true, that it's from a creator God, Allah. How could we have this book?
Sure, we can. Well, again, we would have to really stretch it and say, okay, maybe he got help from someone.
Ah, maybe he got help from someone. That seems very reasonable, does it not?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so what's more likely? That a creator God revealed through an angel to a guy named Muhammad, who was illiterate,
Mhm.
the perfect will of God, or a man who got help from people created a book? Which is more likely of those two?
Again, I would have to assess who helped him out.
Just based on that information alone.
That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be a fair assessment either way. I would be agnostic at that point.
You'd be agnostic. You wouldn't lean
On
one
that.
way or another?
No, because look, we're if you really want to make a conclusion, you would have to be reasonable, rational, and logical. If I just want to say on a probability or what's probable, it can go either way. What's the point? It's 50-50, right? It's neither here nor there.
It's 50-50. So
Yeah.
if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I'm illiterate, but yet I'm responsible for this great book, would you say it's 50-50 that they got help from a God or that someone helped him?
I'm saying I wouldn't even go there. I would simply ask, why is that? What is the reason why that you came to that conclusion? Not simply making a conclusion.
And that's what I'm
without
asking you.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So if someone came to me and they're illiterate and now they have a piece of, they wrote a whole book or whatever the case may be, I'll ask them, okay, can you demonstrate how you did this while being illiterate? Instead of just saying
I think you agree with me deep down in your soul. I think you think it is more probable that a guy didn't get a revelation from a creator God and did get help if he was illiterate over that creator God, angel, perfect revelation.
Let's say I grant it, right? Let's say I granted that he did get help, right? What would be the next step? Would we take that as
the next step is
what happened?
The next step is you make a list on a piece of paper of all the reasons why you think the Quran is indeed the perfect will of Allah. And you gave one just now. Here's an external test. He was illiterate, yet he created this book. And I think we kind of crossed that one off the list. And you just keep going down the list. So you create your list and you ask that same question I asked you each time. What is the second best explanation for this, other than it actually being the perfect will of Allah? And then you ask yourself, well, which is more probable, the second best explanation or the best? Is it really more probable? And then I think if you do that by number 10 on your list, you'll be doubting Islam a lot.
Well, let's play it out, right? So I make my list. I have a long list of possibilities, right? I mean, I can like go very absurd and I can be like, hey, like literally another alien came from outer space and told him what to write. I mean, I can like that list. It doesn't even have to be 10. I mean, I can keep going and it could be as long as it needs to be. I think the next logical question for me is, as I go through that list, I have to assess all of them. And then I have to look further deeper into it and see, okay, which one actually.
We can do one more together. You mentioned he was illiterate, and you kind of implied some type of miracle. Then I asked you the second best explanation. You said he had help. Name a second one.
No, I'm saying before we even get to the list, now it's time to check off which of the things in the list actually make sense or doesn't make sense, right? So if you say that he did get help from someone else, all right, what reason do I have to believe that? Right now, I have to see, okay, is there anything in history that I can find that I can correlate with that and say that, hey, he did actually have people around him who had all these specific information that he.
Do people hang out with other people? Is that a reasonable thing to say? Do people help other people? Isn't that reasonable to say?
Yeah. I mean, look, that's just shifting one belief and shifting it on another point, right?
No. I'm saying that that's a pretty reasonable default position, is that people help people no matter what. I mean, unless you're a hermit living in a cave. Well, never mind. Scratch that. I don't think you need to say, well, I need evidence that he got help. I think
no. I'm not even saying, hey, prove to me that he had, and who exactly was it that helped him. It's not even that. I'm saying with the train of thought that we're going in, we can continue to make up one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. It's just creating one doubt after another doubt after another.
Yes, we're creating doubt. Yes.
Right. And what I'm saying is, doubt does not reach truth. Can anyone say the more doubts I have, the more I can solidify truth?
Oh,
The
I would
answer will be
disagree with
no.
you. I would say doubt is a motivator for truth.
No, I'm not talking about motivator. I'm talking about in terms of making conclusions. So if I
Yeah, me
doubt
too.
something, yeah. So if I doubt something, it's not my reason to reject it. That's just me holding a belief, and I'm just adding doubts to solidify my belief of having a doubt. It doesn't reach the conclusion that, hey, because I doubt, therefore it is true. It's just a possibility, right? So you're just taking your agnosticism and you're just stretching it to add as many doubts as possible without assessing them,
But
just because it's more
I understand
probable.
what you're saying. Before you go, imagine 5 years from now, you're like me. You don't believe in Islam anymore or any religion. How would your life be different?
See, this is the thing with me. I'm not a Muslim because I grew up in a Muslim family or whatever the case may be. To me, the way my worldview works is it starts with the belief in God. Religion comes way after. It could be a journey that you take on, even at your age now. I'm not sure how old
Right.
you
But
are
my
right
question is, how would your life be
Right.
different if you became an atheist? Specifically.
now. If I was an atheist, it would mean that for me personally, I would come to a point where I'll be like, hey, you know what? If I do something that, let's say, what I hold as morally good, hey, I might be enticed to do it anyways because, hey, who cares now?
Ah, you think you'd be less moral if you became an atheist?
It's not about being less moral. It would be, what's the word? I'll be less accountable.
Less
Meaning,
accountable.
less accountable meaning I'll do something. Look, we're all humans. We're not all perfect. Doesn't matter if you believe in a God or not. We all do things that might not be morally correct. However, I won't have a way to remind myself that, hey, Jawad, guess what? What you did there, that's something that I shouldn't be doing it again and again, even though I know deep down inside that it's morally incorrect.
I'll give you
So-
I'll give you a quick thought experiment, which is directly appropriate for this. You're walking in a mall and you see something happen. You see a person following another person. The person in front drops a $100 bill, doesn't realize it. The person walking behind sees the $100 bill on the ground, picks it up, and puts it in their pocket. Okay, that's scenario one. Scenario two is you're in the mall, you see two people walking, the person in front drops a $100 bill, and the person behind picks it up. But as the person picks it up, he notices that the person in front turns around and sees, feels, intuits that something has been dropped. And then instead of putting it into his pocket, he immediately says, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am, you dropped this. Here you go." Which person is more moral, the first person or the second person? The first person is the one who just immediately puts it in his pocket. Second person puts it in the pocket or gives it back when being watched. And actually, there's a third person who, no matter being watched or not, gives it back. That's the third scenario. Scenario 1, 2, or 3, which is the most moral?
So what was the third one?
Third one was the person drops the $100 bill, the person picks it up, and before they even turn around and say, "Excuse me, ma'am, you dropped this."
Yeah. So your question is who is,
in your opinion, which of the three is more virtuous, more moral? The one who just takes
scenario 3. From those 3 scenarios, I would say scenario 3.
Scenario 3. So now my question to you is, do you think you need to be watched? Do you think you need this accountability from on high God in order to do the right thing, or can you do the right thing on your own?
No, I mean, look, accountability is not about being watched. I think that's a person who's going to commit a crime is going to commit a crime, right? I mean, you have people who could be the most religious who could still be committing crime.
Right.
And
But my point is,
in
can't
that
you be
moment-
accountable to yourself?
Oh, whether the level of God conscious you are, you're still accountable for yourself. You're always accountable to yourself, right? However, if you're
Would you
gonna
be accountable to yourself as an atheist?
yeah, you should be. I mean, any human.
There you go.
Right. So, but here's the thing: if any human, look, it's not. I'm not. I hope you don't take it as me saying if I become an atheist or any atheist by default is less moral or less accountable. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. I'm saying every human already has an inbuilt moral compass. So regardless of if that person believes in God or not, I believe God has already instilled it within them.
I'm hearing your life wouldn't change when it comes to morality if you became an atheist. Am I hearing you right?
No. So let me give you from a perspective of what's the difference from my eyes, right?
I just want to know how your life would be different if you became an atheist. So far, I'm not hearing anything.
So I would have a framework to be consistently moral in terms of if I'm being moral, it's just not not just the actions, right? It's your words, it's what you do, from a spiritual sense. So for a Muslim, for example, we have 5 prayers every day, right? These are
I'm not interested in that.
right?
I'm just
but this is the mechanism that I'm explaining, right? What would be the difference? If I'm an atheist, I'm no longer praying, right? So,
okay.
Right. So what's the advantage of me praying 5 times a day, taking my time? I'm in the middle of whatever it's time to pray. Like I have to stop what I'm doing and I'm praying.
Yeah.
Like why am I doing that, right?
Good question.
For me, all the things that are happening in worldly things, I'm eating, I'm drinking, I'm going to work, spending time with my family, spending time with my wife, all those things are going to continue. However, once you zone out and you have time with yourself in your mind, right? So the prayer being that framework, that portal, you're taking the mind out of all these materialistic things, and you're reminding yourself that you're on a path to be a better person, not on a day-to-day basis. From one prayer, the duration from the prayer that you just performed to the next prayer.
Sounds like Islam is a bit of a self-help program.
Yes, it's a constant reminder for you to be a better person than you were last prayer. So an atheist, let's say, for example, if I'm an atheist, I can still say, hey, I want to be a better person than I was yesterday. Sure. Right. But we, with how the world is today, the fast world, we're all so indulged in, making money, make sure, we get popular, we have all the views. We're just chasing the game. And it becomes really hard to take that time out for yourself. We just do that 5 times a day.
But you could do meditation.
No, yeah, that's fine. Meditation, like you can say prayer is a form of meditation.
Buy Tony Robbins CDs.
Yeah, yes, that's fine. So I'm just saying, anyone can do that. So something any religious or non-religious.
So I'm still not hearing a difference how your life would change, because you could do all these replacements.
Yeah, so a person giving themselves the individual time 5 times a day is something that an atheist wouldn't do, right? So this is something that I would
something very practical. I get that. Okay. Yeah. So your life would be better in a way because you don't have to do that, right?
No, now I have nothing bringing me back to my spiritual sense and giving myself some time.
Meditation, yoga, Tony Robbins, I've just given you 3. You could still do that as an atheist.
And would that be something obligatory for an atheist to do, or would they do it if they want, if they get time?
Do you need that obligation?
So that's the thing. So even, let's say, for example, you're Muslim and it's not obligated for you to pray, right? Now, with all these different avenues of other things you can do, right? From your desires to do this and that. And those desires can also be things that are immoral, right? Your prayer, as soon as it's time for your next prayer, it's a reminder for you that, hey, wait a second, Jawad, let's take a step back. Let's not think about those things that you shouldn't, or let's not go on that path that you shouldn't be going. And it will be a source for you to come back to who you are.
That obligation.
It is, yeah, because if you don't have that obligation, there's nothing stopping you when you are leading that path. You'll just continue until you feel good, and once you feel good, then you'll be like, okay, now what? And then you're gonna find.
What happens if you go against that obligation?
Well, it is obviously if you define yourself as a Muslim, this is one of those basic things, right? It's one of the pillars of
I know,
Islam.
but what if you rebel against that obligation? What happens?
Yeah, obviously, then you're moving away from being a Muslim.
And why is that bad?
It's not about being good or bad. You just, by definition, you're just moving away from being a Muslim.
So it's not bad to move away from Islam?
Well, you're opening yourself up to other avenues of things that may take you away from your moral obligations. Being a better person, whatever.
But
it's
you
basically,
just admitted earlier you can be just as moral as not be a Muslim, right? I think you admitted that. So
yeah,
why is it bad
it,
to move away from Islam?
it's not about being immoral or
Why
moving
is it
away.
bad to move away from Islam? Why is it bad to leave Islam?
Because if you want to be consistent on the path to be good to yourself, to others, and society, then you need to have a set framework that can help you do that, right? And I believe, like, I'm just using this as an example.
Christians
like
claim to have a set framework.
they like 5 times a day as an obligation, or it's like a,
No,
hey,
no, a
I
framework
only
for
do it.
morality.
Yeah, no, not even for morality. This is to
Christians
framework
have
to be consistent.
Christians are way better than Muslims when it comes to prayer. They pray without ceasing. You only do it 5 times a day.
What's that? Sorry, I didn't even.
The Christian obligation is to pray without ceasing. Muslims, they only have to pray 5 times a day.
I don't.
There's
What's
way
that
more
word?
obligation in Christianity than Islam.
I didn't understand the word that you use. Ceasing or
Ceasing. They pray without ceasing, that they never stop praying. They walk down the street, and while they're thinking, they're praying. They're in constant
Oh,
personal relationship with God. It sounds like there's way more obligation, and therefore it seems like obligation is better for a consistent path to morality. So maybe you should leave Islam and become a Christian.
so that's a good point. So, and I'm glad you said that. So what I mentioned in terms of the 5 daily prayers, that is a ritualistic prayer.
Yeah.
But in terms of every other living moment, your actions, it's a form of worship. Simply me smiling is a form of worship. Me
Yeah.
being good to others is a form of worship. So throughout the day, if I'm God conscious, I'm constantly remembering God through my actions, my words. All these things are part of worship. So what you're
I
mentioning
understand.
is something, it is already within Islam. It's just that these 5 specific, the reason why I have these 5 specific prayers, it makes you take a break from other actions that you're doing in your daily life and fully concentrate without any distractions.
I understand.
And
Hey,
that is something different.
I need to go. It was fun talking to you, but hey, do me a favor and actually run that experiment and come up with maybe 10 reasons why you think Islam is true, or that the Quran is the perfect word of God. And then for each reason that you think is powerful, ask yourself, what's the second best explanation? Write it right next to it, and then ask yourself, what's the probability of each one all the way down the list? And then get back to me maybe in a month or so.
Sure. No. Thanks for the opportunity to be on here.
Yeah, and thank you for being very civil and polite.
Yeah, not a problem. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, let's wrap things up. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, I think we basically saw all the same stuff, and I think they're going live now. And I think if they talk about you, they're going to push more Muslims your way, and it's just going to be the same outcome. Like I think that first guy was, I think, having doubts, and that's what all those rationalizations and craziness was. And then the other person, had different psychological disposition, so he wasn't as, his way of resolving it wasn't. But he was just like, oh yeah, like that's. But no, there's like, and he's going to go a different route. But
that's a good observation how different they were.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed is, like, you see the different approaches from the 2 different gentlemen, and there's actually many different approaches from a lot of different Muslims. But what I've noticed is, the more educated, the more philosophically inclined a person is, he's going to justify all of these big picture things, morality and this and that. But then once you have this set up that yes, it is good, Islam, but when you get into the nitty gritty, then you have to start believing in a lot of weird things, because you already believe the first part, that, okay, Quran is the word of God. So once you already establish that, okay, it is, Muhammad is the prophet, Quran is the word of God, the stage is set. And now whatever else comes along, you have to just accept it anyway, because what can be more than the word of God? If it is said so in the Quran, it has to be true. So by default, then you end up having to accept all the other things that are in the Quran, and some of them are like really weird stuff, but on the bigger picture stuff, it all makes sense. Like, yeah, morality, be good to your parents, all that stuff is a good setup. But then you're like, okay, then you have to believe Jonah, lived in the fish's belly for this many days.
Yeah.
And Noah's Ark was there, and the animals were on top of it, and Moses split the sea. You have to believe all of that stuff, because that becomes
Or become a
consequence
progressive
of the
Muslim,
first
like
part,
progressive
because
Christians.
you already accepted Quran as the word of God. So by default, now you have to accept
Yeah.
all the other things.
You know what was interesting about that conversation is when I asked why he would believe that this is the perfect will of a creator God transmitted through an angel to a man who's illiterate, he very quickly could come up with a second best explanation. Very quickly. He had help. That's how he did it.
Yeah.
And yet he still would think a better explanation is no, creator God did some miracle in his life to help him do it. I mean, it was, this is what flabbergasts me, that they can quickly come up with their explanations that are completely naturalistic, but yet they desire to go with the spiritual or supernaturalistic.
Well, because in the religion of Islam, creating doubt is actually a bad thing, So the more, like, there are certain places that specifically says, don't think too much about this, because the devil is going to put doubts in your mind and is going to take you away from the religion. So even that's why whenever you do a debate, when I ask the gentleman, like, okay, do you think you could be wrong? It's like, nope. Because the minute they say, well, Quran could be wrong, they basically blaspheme, and that could kick them out of the religion. So as a Muslim, you're not even allowed to say that Quran could be wrong. So you're going into the conversation already with the mindset that I'm already correct no matter what happens, So it becomes a very difficult situation to.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if Muslims are wrong, you're stuck. There's no way out.
Yeah, because you're creating a doubt. Like the minute you create a doubt, that could kick you out of the religion. So your best bet is to not even create doubt in your mind, and you stick with the narrative, because if you create doubt, that doubt is going to lead to another doubt, which is going to lead to another doubt, and it's like a house of cards. Everything falls apart. So your best strategy is don't even doubt the first. So like you were asking him, what could be the second best explanation? He was avoiding that. Why? Because why even go to the second? Just stick with the first one. That's good enough, and everything else works from there.
I think another thing we saw as well when he did give a second best explanation, and maybe this is going to be like the millionth time some people have heard this, but it's this classic cognitive bias of mistaking the plausibility and the coherence of a story, as it seems to you, with probabilities. So this is like, the Linda fallacy, where they tell people a story about Linda, that she was a feminist activist when she was at university. And then they ask two questions. They say, so what's more likely, that Linda is a bank teller or that she's a bank teller and a feminist? And, the conjoined, the probability that she's a bank teller and a feminist, well, you've got the sample size of, people who are bank tellers. And then you've got a subset of that, which is, bank tellers and feminists, and it's always going to be smaller. You always multiply it across. And I think that's basically what you saw going on. Like when he said, oh, yeah, well, it'd be like 50-50 probability. I don't think that's not probability. Like, how many times has he seen, like, is it, even if we go like a frequentist, like, what are the base rates of this thing happening versus this thing? That's not a probability. You're just talking about how plausible each of the stories seems to you at this time. Like, that's a story that makes sense, kind of thing.
Every time you buy a ticket for the $100 million lotto, it's 50-50. You're either going to win or you're not.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's been fun, but I haven't eaten yet today, so. And it's getting late there, right, Nathan?
Yeah. Are you still meat only? Did you stop meat only?
I eat carbs only once a week. And I will eat some green vegetables. But yeah, I basically am still meat only. And I've been feeling good. I used to get knee pain and back pain, and so my inflammation has gone down because I basically don't eat sugar.
Or there's a whole month of fasting coming up in a few days for the Muslims. So they're going to be fasting for the whole month.
But they can drink water and they can eat at night, though, right?
No. They can, during the day, they cannot eat or drink at all. During sunset, from sunrise to sunset, no water or food they can drink.
But during the nights?
Before sunset, before sunrise, they can eat, and after sunset, they can eat. but during the
Yeah.
daytime, from sunrise to sunset, they can't eat or drink anything.
That's easy. A lot of you flag waving Muslims, yeah, that's easy, right? Phony Muslims. Okay, guys, take care. Thanks for hopping on. I'll get the music started, and I'll look at the chat for a little bit. Ramadan. It's called intermittent fasting. Ramadan equals intermittent fasting. Not that hard. It's actually healthy though, I think. Check out Atheist Republic channel. I think I have. Yeah, Linguisty, I can put a link in next time. Thank you for the donation, Turd Ferguson. Hey Doug, it was good to see you on Hamaz's Den. You did great. Also, Bay Yaqeen knows his stuff on Islam. I agree with 95.6% of what he's saying. Yeah, well, thank you for the donation. The head office in Wichita says that I'm 97.2% right about everything I say. You need a clip of Anchorman. I'm a glass case of emotion. Good idea. Do you think I'm a victim of confirmation bias when it comes to not accepting PineCreek theorem or serum not working? Oh, I admit that sometimes it doesn't work. It's just uncanny how many times it does. It's theorem, not serum. It's not a love potion. Actually, but that does make sense. I love serum. Will you join E. Abdallah's stream? It's the last stream before Ramadan. Probably not. I'm tired. Lots of love from South Africa. South Africans have the most unique accents. You flag waving phony. Excellent talks, Doug. I wonder what Cameron Bertuzzi thought of this.
Yeah, that's really bad. That's really, really bad. To me, this was flagrant.
What? Even when I create doubt in Muslims, Cameron Bertuzzi says it's bad? I'll go one more. Are you open to the possibility of Islam being true? Yes, Munib Shah. In fact, I gave a marker to a couple Muslims, or at least one. Dip this in water. I won't actually do it. Light it on fire. In the name of Allah. Show me a miracle. Saying an illiterate man wrote the Quran is not even close. Not even close to the standards I have for miracle. Saying that the Quran is written in such a way that it can't be duplicated is not even close. Not even a scotch of a miracle in my standards. I have high standards. That's why I'm not a Muslim. Super high standards. Yeah, nothing's good enough for Cameron. Are you on a keto diet? I guess so, Trevor. But the questions I asked these Muslims, Frank Turek, what'd you think? Uh-oh.
Hey, man! This makes sense!
Yeah, see, Frank Turek loved what I did here with Muslims. Frank Turek absolutely loved what I did with these Muslims. Made sense, my questions. I put a couple of timestamps in the comments on Sal and Maddox's after show you'd get a kick out of. I'm sure I would. The dog wants out. Who let the dogs out? Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. There's nobody to apologize to. Have a great Sunday.